It's taking forever. Welcome back, college baseball fans. This is another episode of the College Baseball Show, Top 25. Joined by my wonderful guest host here. I'm Mark Garland. I got Jason Ratcliffe from 648 Analytics. How we doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Just pulling up Twitter now to let people know if they want to come yell at us.
Yeah, it's a great place on Monday nights. Yeah, they get to come in here, tell us we're wrong. I love it, man. I've been getting it all day saying that my Georgia Tech ranking is still wrong, even though I have them in the top 5 still. But, we'll talk about that when we get closer to it. But, yeah, I love the interaction still. Even if it's negative, bring it. I want to talk to you guys, so bring it in. I love it.
So one of my favorite programs that I like to talk with all the time is actually West Virginia. And I am getting straight dog walked by the Mountaineers right now. They do not like me whatsoever. So I'm really enjoying that, being told I'm a dummy, dumpster. So that's been a lot of fun. But I was telling one of their coaches, I'm like, you guys have a phenomenal fan base. And he's like, not when you lose 27-1 to Pitt or something like that.
Yeah, so the state rivalry game.
Yeah. So I get it. I get it. Especially if a fan base, maybe if you feel like you've been I don't know, looked over in the past. It's I just drag and drop on an Excel spreadsheet. If you really want to get into it, have fun. I'm here for it.
I love it. I love the passionate fan base. I've dealt with Oregon State fan base my entire life. So you guys know just very much how passionate that fan base is. So Will Massa here with us again. What's up, buddy? How you doing this day?
Great. I'm doing the same thing. I'm preparing for all of the people to tell us we're wrong. Excited to give my spiel at the end of this show, like I always do on the exact same 2 teams, which will be always a blast as it is every single Monday night. Because let's be honest, the top. There's a lot of moving pieces, but the top 7 to 8 teams has kind of just remained the same. Honestly, I think you could say that the top 12 teams has kind of just been cemented for a while. So this was another tough week in terms of placing teams where we think is right. But it was a fun weekend of ball.
It was a great weekend of ball. There was so many good games out there, and not to put a damper on stuff, but there's a lot of canceled games, and a lot of teams are worried about RPI or travel or arms and being ready for their weekend series. So a lot of these teams have to win this weekend to get in. A lot of bubble teams are really on that edge of hey, do we play these games for the RPI matters? They're going to hurt us, but we have to win this weekend. Do we want to waste the arms? There's been a whole lot going on. Jason, I know you had some points about this. I'm frustrated. I know Will's frustrated. We're all frustrated by the way that this is going and how they are perceiving it. But this is the NCAA caused their own problem with this.
Yeah. So there's kind of an old saying that I like to use in situations like this. It's don't cry about the rain if you make the clouds. I kind of feel like that's what the NCAA has done. The RPI is the clouds. It's currently raining, and they shouldn't be complaining about the fact that it's raining. It's 3:58 at the live. I want to make sure I don't go too long on this. So they've tried to talk about how they're going to be fixing it. They're bringing new systems. They look at different things. Softball had their selection show on Sunday. The mean absolute difference. So basically it's okay, if we go Alabama number 1 overall seed, where were they in respect to the RPI? Okay, in RPI they were number 2, off by 1, and Nebraska was number whatever and 4, and so it's a plus minus. It averaged out to 2 if you're looking at 1 to 39. So basically they just took RPI carbon copied it on a piece of paper and moved around just a few teams. That's about it. A 98% correlation between softball seeding and the RPI. So the question is that going to translate to baseball? If it does, makes a whole lot of sense what Boston College, what Kentucky, what other teams are doing right now, because I mean, we're going to talk about it, but Boston College, like, can they host anymore? Because right now their RPI doesn't say so. They're 17 wins in the ACC. What if they get 20 wins in the ACC? Are you really not going to have a 20-win ACC team hosting because of an RPI? What about, Kentucky? I mean, Kentucky has some phenomenal wins. They're a really good program. Like, I'm frustrated, and I think my frustration kind of like culminated with that email that came out today to all of the division
coaches.
Yeah, that basically said, like, you're in trouble if you try to use strategy. And it's like, listen, guys, like, you can't make up rules in the fourth quarter of a basketball game. Like, you just can't do that. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, it's a rule now, so you're in trouble. No, you do that at the beginning of the year or in the off season. Like, sometimes where people can actually, I wouldn't do it in the off season, because then you can schedule correctly. Because there are probably some teams who are probably like, hey, let's put an RPI 250 team there. If we're in trouble, we can drop them. If we're not, it'll be a good opportunity for us to say, like, hey, who are we going to be keeping for next year? Like, who's going to help us, like, in the tournament? Like, there's a number of different things we can do with it. But if it's like going to be detrimental to us, we can just drop it. Like, that's absolutely a strategy that teams. Now, do I think that that's good for the game? No, I don't. Like, I don't think it's good for the game for like teams to say, hey, we're going to, like, Team X is going to be playing Team Y, and then on a Monday they say, no, never mind, we're not going to. But do I think that, again, that it's raining because it's the clouds that the NCAA's made? Yeah, absolutely. So do I hold it against the coaches for being strategic? No. I think if you hold it against the coaches for being strategic, you just don't have the forethought to recognize that you have a massive loophole in your system. And so what you should do is you should say, okay, we have a shitty system. Let's fix our shitty system, not yell at the coaches for having to live in the shitty system that you created.
Yep. Yeah, they need to fix it. Like, that's when we've been talking about RPI for all year. Like, all year long, we've been talking about that there's some issues with it and that they're trying to fix it. But, going and complaining and saying that these teams are going to be in trouble because of what they're doing to stay where they're at in the RPI is silly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like the governing body that is NCAA is not doing the best job of governing itself, even in doing the game that it needs to do. And I think that that's where we're stepping on this. And Will, I know that you, self-proclaimed lover of midweeks, this hurts because you don't get to see some of these teams. And the other thing is, too, there's a lot of these like seniors and other guys that were on some of these teams that are no longer, they get a game cut out of their season, or maybe that was going to be their opportunity to play, was that last midweek.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think Jason nailed it. I think the most frustrating part of this whole situation to me is that you're doing this in the fourth quarter. Like, it's way too late to be doing this when we've acknowledged that this happens every single season. I mean, it does. It happens every single year.
This isn't new.
No, this isn't a new thing at all. It's been happening for as long as the RPI has existed. Like, and again, if you can't punish coaches for saying, if it's really going to come down to RPI, whether or not you host, whether or not you get in, regardless of your record, Boston College being a great example, why on earth would you play those games, right? Especially if you're Boston College. Like, Boston College just dropped a game to NJIT this weekend. So, like, you take a little hit there. Why on earth would you play on Tuesday if you were them when you have a chance to be a 20-plus win ACC team? Like, you would never in your world ever think to play that game if you thought that game, whether or not you played, was the difference in you hosting or you not hosting. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is, like, you have to understand that. I think it's honestly, it's worse for the smaller schools because it's good opportunities for them to play better competition. It's a good recruiting tool for kids in junior college that might not be P5 guys. Like, hey, we get, this team, this ACC team on the schedule, or we get X amount of games at SEC parks every year. And then all of a sudden we get into May and half those games get canceled. So I feel for the smaller schools. I believe it was Jordan Banfield was the one that kind of, I don't want to say leaked, but he let out the email and he screenshotted it. And Coach Banfield.
Yeah, that would be a leak.
Yeah.
Textbook definition.
Well, was he the first one to do it? He was the first one I saw, so I assumed
he was the first one I saw. Was Jordan.
Yeah, and Coach Banfield is a tremendous guy. I absolutely love that program. Fantastic coach, like really trying to build that program into something that a lot of the other Cal State schools have that Bakersfield just doesn't quite have yet. So I feel for coaches like that too. It's in the same thing. It's like you have a good opportunity to use that as a recruiting tool. Hey, we went 3-1 versus the Big Ten, or we went 3-0 against the SEC this year, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden you get all those games cut. It's like, I feel for the small school coaches, but when you look at the teams that are on the bubble or in the tournament, it's like, why on earth would you ever do that to yourself? Why would you put yourself in a position to hurt your chances of seeding and or a draw and or hosting and or being in it all in the field of 64? So I completely understand it. It makes too much sense from both angles. And to be sending this out on May 11th, it is today. Like, we have 1 week left in the regular season, and now you're going to take issue with it when this has been happening for the last 8 years. Like, why all of a sudden are we doing it?
Yeah, half of the Power Fives are done with midweeks. They're done with midweeks.
Yeah, they've canceled
them. Some conference tournaments have started.
Yeah, you're basically just saying, hey, 3 to 4 schools we see doing this, like, we're going to come down hard on you.
Yeah, and how are they going to come down on what are they going to say about other schools? What are they going to say about other midweeks that got canceled? So, like the Oregon, you think those two teams didn't want to play each other? They couldn't fit it back in the schedule. Are you going to say that they canceled that game on purpose? Like, where do you draw the line now if you're the NCAA saying this rule? Like, are you going to say anything in the last 2 weeks that you cancel is against it? Like, the silliness of this rule and how they're just saying, like,
Texas A&M, they only got 2 games.
Are they going to cut back on them because they couldn't get their games in?
Yeah, I get it. Like,
UNC ECW, like when they had to cancel the third game of that series, like,
I 100% get it. Like, this is absurdly transparent why these things are happening. And I know, like, some schools are like, oh, it's to do this, it's to do that. And I said this about Kentucky, like, zero excuse was needed. Like, if I was a program, I'd just straight up go out and say it, be like, we don't want our RPI to drop because the RPI is stupid, and that's all y'all care about.
And that's what we're stuck at. Yeah, we don't want to drop.
Yeah. I mean, I know you don't want to piss off the committee and all those kinds of things, and that's probably why I wouldn't say, cooler heads would prevail and all that kind of shit. But, like, I just would be like, you guys have created a stupid system. Sorry, we have to live in it, and so we're going to adjust to it.
And the best programs are doing that. Honestly, all the good programs that are taking a look around and saying, hey, because the difference between hosting and not hosting, or even being a choice 2 seed, right? Massive. Like how they're selecting the 2 seed. It's a big, big difference. There's a massive difference between being able to host and being on that bubble. And why even put yourself in that conversation? Like that, I'd be like,
who wants to go to UCLA as a 32? Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody wants that job. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm Kentucky, I'm doing everything I can to get as far away from 32 as humanly possible, because they know we probably aren't going to be a 1. They know that they're probably going to be 6 or so, I don't know, SEC hosts. I'm just throwing out a random number. I haven't even thought about the total. So you're basically saying, like, we only have 10 possible spots we can go to for a host location. We already have a 1 in 10 chance we're going to UCLA. Let's try to make that a lot closer to 10% than 100%.
Yeah, and why not game the system? Like, that's what you have to do. I'm frustrated, but I know they have to figure out other ways. The thing that is brutal to me is, like, even some of these teams like Boston College, if they had gone and won their midweek, they could have dropped in the RPI by winning. A win can drop you in the RPI, which is just a silly thing when you look at it. Like, wins shouldn't drop you in the RPI. And I think that's the tough part. Losses, I get that. And it's also another reason why teams don't want to play, because the loss hurts you so much worse, especially if it's at home. But come on, guys. I mean, there's got to be a better way. I get it that you had to try to make it equal. The system made sense for a little bit in some ways. There's got to be more data. There's got to be more ways to pick these teams out. Like, there just has to be a better way to have this, because right now it doesn't make sense to me. And there's just so much against it. So, and some of these teams with the weekend series they have coming up, it's going to be massive. It's going to be enormous for some of these teams. And I get why they don't want to use pitching. They don't want to go into that and get ready for this weekend. So, especially like teams like Boston College, Oregon, like, these teams have huge weekend series that can say whether they're hosting or not. Like, they have to win these weekend series to host. Why even burn up your arms in the midweek or have something happen? Maybe a guy dings up a finger and all of a sudden you're down that player for the weekend. Like, I get it. No thanks. Let's talk about SEC. We've talked now enough about the wonderful bidding, and we'll be talking more about that over the next 2 weeks for our show. SEC, LSU is at 57 now in the RPI, 9-18. I think they're out. I've said it last week. They had to go 2-3 or 4-2. They had to win 2 of 3 in the series. They got swept by Georgia. Vanderbilt goes and loses the series at Mizzou. They're now 11-16 and 73 in the RPI. Unrecoverable, right, Jason? Neither one of those teams can get in without winning the SEC tournament. Yeah,
they're cooked. I think that's literally the word I wrote here. Cooked. LSU is 0-12 versus teams with a winning record in the SEC. 0-12.
Yeah,
it's not great, Bob. Vandy's 1-5 in their last 6 SEC games. When everyone was like, "Hey, if they just win a few of these, they should be in." They're 1-5. I mean, I think this will definitely go down as kind of one of those what if years for Vandy. A lot of injuries, but man, they can hit. Mancini, Holcomb, Johnson, Barcy, like they
Some
basically
runs they've
play
hit in a
anywhere.
long time.
Yeah, I mean, Johnstone has kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch, but I mean, it's not like he's been terrible. But the RBI is 73. I mean, we just talked about the mean absolute deviation from the RPI softball was 2. It's over for Vandy. Like, it's over. LSU, they now can only get to 12 wins in the SEC. It's over. So I think I hate to put things in ink, but I think you can tattoo this one. Unless they win it, the SEC tournament. Like, I think both of them.
Yeah, I don't even think there's a number of games that they can win in the tournament. Maybe if Vandy sweeps this weekend and they get to the final, but I still don't think the RPI jumps enough. I think the RPI stays too low, and the committee's just there's too many teams on the bubble where they can't say, hey, you're going to put this team in and make you have 13 teams. Right now, there's 11 for sure teams in locked, and Kentucky is as close as a lock as can be with the 30 in the RPI. They need one more win. I believe Kentucky gets that next win. Do you think that they need it, though? I mean, 30 in the RPI, 12 and 15. The magic number's been 13. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, I think you got to do it just as kind of the formality of it, to be honest. The precedent for SEC teams with 12 wins getting in is pretty low, and you imagine that RPI takes a significant hit if they don't.
It only happens when they don't play 30 games. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, Aria Gerson made a really good point. She said the only time 12 has ever gotten in is when they didn't. It wasn't a 12 and 18 situation.
They were 12 and 17. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're Kentucky, I think you do need to notch that last one. And if you run it from the flip side, if they get swept, like they're going to take a pretty significant RPI drop. So they would have to win a couple games in the tournament to be reconsidered. But I think you feel more comfortable if you get the one. I'll put it that way. I think you got to get one this weekend, but shouldn't be that tall of a test. Vandy, I think you're out, right? But at the same time, it's like if they sweep and end with 14, you think they'd exclude a 14-win SEC team?
100%. They sweep. They sweep their RPIs. Right? Yeah.
It stays the same.
The RPI would be disgustingly low, but when's the last time they left a 14-win SEC team out?
It'll be this year. 100%.
It'll be.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that they would. I hope that they would, because the RPI would probably be in the 60s. So it's
high 60s maybe.
Yeah. So I would hope so, but yeah, I would agree. I think you can pencil in. I think honestly, put it in pen. LSU, Vandy. There goes the season hopes. Man, what a weird season for LSU.
Yeah. And the thing is now, like people were saying, 14 teams from the SEC. And for a while, it looked like we could see 14 teams in the SEC. Now we're down to 12. That opens up the bubble for quite a few more teams. And we'll talk more about that throughout the week as we go through this. But man, just bubble open now with those two teams for sure probably being out of this thing. And it opens up the world.
Conference USA, Sunbelt.
They had a brutal week. And Conference USA had a brutal week in the RPI. They struggled, the top teams there. Yeah. Top teams in the American, they struggled. Like all those teams lost. UTSA,
Western Carolina got rocked by Wake.
Western Carolina got
Mercer's
smoked.
Happy.
Yeah. There was a lot of teams that were on that bubble in that didn't take care of business. And then teams like the Texas States of the world, where we thought they were bubble out, took care of business and went and got a big win over the weekend. And now they're back on that bubble in because of how it looked out. I mean, Coastal Carolina took a bad job. I mean, we'll talk more about them when we talk about the top 25. But man, that they just dropped out, and then their chances of hosting now with the RPI jumping all the way to 22 is not good. It doesn't look good unless I think you're still. I said it 2 weeks ago. One host out of the Sun Belt. I stick to the one host out of the Sun Belt. Whoever wins that conference tournament, I feel like they'll probably just give it the nod, like between those.
You think so? So you think if it's Coastal, you don't think Southern Miss will host?
No, I don't. I believe that they're going to get one host in. That's
God,
how I mean.
God, you want to talk about piss on the NCAA?
Yeah, especially with
everyone, with the RPI.
Yeah,
Southern Miss has done everything right to host.
They've done everything they've been asked.
Basically, if someone said, "Hey, NCAA," like they did a pre-notice consultation with the NCAA, and they said, "How do I host?" They're like, "Do these 10 things." Southern Miss was like, "Okay," and they did all 10 of them. I just don't see them not hosting. Unless it's a first round bounce and they're like 19th on the RPI, and they can be like, well, 17 had a better resume.
They could still
that's
struggle
about
this
it.
weekend too. They could still struggle
Yeah.
this weekend. I mean,
But you'll also have to
struggles.
do a big stretch of if Coastal is in the 20s hosting, which just very rarely happens. So yeah,
especially for a mid-major. Like you'd be talking about a mid-major in the 20s hosting. That's a very big stretch for the committee. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's talk ACC. Florida State takes 2 from Clemson, ends their bid now, right? I mean, like, this has got to be the end of Clemson, right? Like, there's no more. Like, there was out there. They had the chances. Yep. Now it's over for Clemson. They would have to win the ACC tournament, but they are. I don't even think they're actually in the tournament. I think that right now they are actually out of the ACC tournament because of where they rank, and that would not be good for Clemson. Boston College likely not a host now after their struggles this weekend, like that loss to NJIT. While, yes, it was kind of like a tune-up getting ready for this last weekend at home against Georgia Tech. If they beat Georgia Tech over the weekend, that might be enough to put them back in, but the RPI really took a hit this weekend.
I think when you look at the conference record, if they were to beat Georgia Tech, you would almost have to. I think you would. I think it would be really hard to exclude them. And this would be one of the rare cases that maybe a team in the 20s of the RPI would get the host because you go out and you beat Georgia Tech, who's one of the best RPI teams in the entire country. A team that's really steamrolled the majority of the ACC all season, has good resume. Boston College, quite frankly, I don't love the resume, but that would be a stamp on it with 20 ACC wins and a series dub over Georgia Tech. So I think for Boston College to host, you have to, especially with some of the weird losses they've taken over the last week and a half. It's kind of the last-ditch effort at hosting. I think they're comfortably a 2 seed based on the ACC record, assuming that they're not a 1 and out in the ACC tournament. Maybe something weird happens there, but I would say they're pretty comfortably a 2. You got to make a huge push if they want to be a 1. I would say it's pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, I think that it's almost a sweep territory. Like, I don't even know if 2 or 3 really gets you into that conversation just because I don't know if the RPI will jump enough because it's at home, which also takes a hit on that, which is, I know Georgia Tech number 2 in the RPI. They're going to be quad 1 games. And Boston College is 7-8 in quad 1 wins and 7-4 in quad 2 games. Like, they've done what they've been asked to do. But the RPI for those games where they have lost those non-important games, they've really blown some of those games pretty badly. So I think that it's going to be out for Boston College. I don't think that they get in as a host, is where I had them 2 weeks ago. I said all they had to do was beat Clemson. They didn't do that. And then that was the bride thing. Like, got to beat the teams in front of you, and they didn't do that. And we talk about that all the time.
We do have someone already asking you to defend Georgia Tech behind UGA without referencing how you ranked teams in the previous week. So we are semi-talking about the ACC. And I know this won't be for another hour and a half. But hey, Crouton is on.
We can get into it now. I mean, personally,
I don't see why not. We're talking about all the teams right now. Crouton is
let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's dive into it.
Question. I'm good with it.
I know Will has both these teams, so I'm just going to make my point is that I had Georgia Tech in as an Omaha team from preseason. I picked them as a preseason team. I said, this is the talent's there. I like Georgia overall better. I have Georgia as my number 2 team. I have them above UNC in my personal rankings. I think Georgia is the second best team in the nation, almost number 1 in the nation. If Oregon had taken that series from UCLA, it would have been real close for me to saying that Georgia could have been number 1. They have already won the SEC with 4 games left. They won the hardest conference in baseball. They're up 4.5 games right now in the hardest conference in baseball, and they don't have to do anything this weekend. They've already won the conference. They're the only team with 20 wins. They're the only team that can get 20 wins in the SEC. They've shown that they're one of the best offenses in the country. They've shown that they have enough pitching to beat anybody in the country on the road or at home. The road to Omaha goes through Athens, and I don't see a way that you don't say that Georgia is better than Georgia Tech right now. I love Georgia Tech. One of the best lineups ever in the history of college baseball right now, no doubt. But they have their pitching woes, and there's been times where they have looked like the worst team. Go back and look at the UNC series. They did not look like the better team at any part in that series. Even the game they won, they didn't necessarily look better than UNC. They just played better that day. So that's where I stand. I still think overall the season looks to me like Georgia's a better team. I think Georgia has better pieces. I think Georgia is a way tougher out than Georgia Tech right now. And as much as I love Georgia Tech and pick them to go to Omaha, I still think it's Georgia. Will, I'll let you talk. I know that you had your feelings on this already. And then, of course, Jason, you can talk about this because I know that you're the SEC guy as well.
Yeah, I do. I love this Georgia team. I did the last 3 weeks. I have ranked Georgia Tech 3rd, Georgia 4th. However, I think the justification to have Georgia ahead is completely valid. Again, they already clinched the SEC regular season. I think that in itself, and Georgia Tech hasn't won the ACC. I think that in itself is a huge deciding factor. And all anybody ever says is, I wonder what would happen if 4 played 3 in a midweek on a neutral site. Whenever, if Georgia Tech lost a midweek to, let's just say, NJIT or Georgia Southern, you wouldn't sit there and say, oh, I wonder if Georgia Southern's better. Like, you just wouldn't, right? It's part of the sport. I know they really took it to them. They did. There's no denying it, right? They beat the crap out of them in a neutral site game. There's something to be said for that as the resident lover of midweeks. However, I think you just have to look at what Georgia has done in conference play. I mean, I think Georgia Tech has a good resume. As somebody who takes a lot of resume stuff into account, again, I ranked Georgia Tech above them, but I think it's really, really close. I genuinely think it's a coin flip between 3 and 4. I really do. And I don't think that the midweek win plays that much of a factor in it. As annoying as people are going to take that, people are going to absolutely hate that take, but I don't think it plays that much into it. Again, they're a 20+ win SEC team. And everybody always says, like, oh, if an SEC team, if that logo was SEC, they'd be number 1 in the country. Like, Georgia's still not number 1, and they're not number 2. So I think you just got to look at it for what it is. Like, I think they're both incredible teams. I think both of them are Omaha teams right now. Would love to see them play each other in Omaha. How fun would that be? Getting like their legit arms against each other in Omaha. I think it's valid. I think you can go either way. Like, it doesn't bother me that Georgia Tech is lower. I don't think it's wrong that Georgia is above. I don't think it's wrong that, either way you put it.
Yeah. I'm with you. I can't wait. I mean, can you imagine if that's the 2 and 3 seeds and we get to Omaha and they're playing each other on Sunday night? Like, that's the Sunday night baseball game. Oh, that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to be there. Jason, what are your I mean, for me, it's Georgia by a hair, but it is Georgia.
I mean, I could say either. Honestly, who cares? That'd probably be my best way of putting it. Frankly,
still top 5
being the top 3, it's just a crapshoot. Like, you could be right, you could be wrong, you could be yellow, you could be whatever color they were talking about with the Queen. So my comment would be, Will, did I just hear you basically say that midweeks don't matter? Did I just hear that?
I would never say that.
Record.
He says this one particular midweek didn't matter.
Okay.
I
heard.
Well, you wouldn't say.
Is that team better than this team? I was like, we're getting into midweek territory here.
MLB doesn't play game 163 for a very specific reason, and it is that reason right there. The Rockies are not better than the Braves because they beat them in 1 game. You know what I mean?
I will say,
play 3.
If there's one reason why I would have thought that Georgia was better than Georgia Tech, I would say depth. So frankly, like, I would have expected kind of the opposite. Like, I kind of would have thought, because when I think about Georgia Tech's deficiencies, I think about depth in the bullpen. I think about how do I get, like, from the 5th to the 7th on a Saturday. That's when I think of, like, where could Georgia Tech have issues. So I thought Georgia was going to go bananas on them, and it was completely the opposite. Now, like, it's not because do I think, like, Friday versus Friday that Georgia would go off on Georgia Tech. It's more of just like on a midweek. On a midweek, when you're facing the 6th and 8th pitchers, like, I thought that Georgia, who has 100 trillion home runs or however many they have, would want to go crazy. But to Georgia Tech's, strengths, they pitched really, really well. So that was a really great sign for me for Georgia Tech, was that they have more depth perhaps in their bullpen than I was giving them credit for.
Yeah. And like we've said, both these teams, we all feel are Omaha teams. They both have the quality to get there. They both have the road to get there, and it's both through their home ballparks. And Georgia Tech is one of the best teams at their home ballpark. They had lost 1 game to Virginia Tech in conference this year at home. Like, they're very, very good at home. I think that both these teams get there, and I am so pumped. And I hope that it's 2-3. I hope that some way they're on the same side of the bracket, and we get to see that in Omaha, because I think it would be just unbelievable there, the atmosphere of both those teams. Let's talk about some of these other ACC teams. NC State, man, Will, what a show. I mean, that was bad to go down to Stanford and lose that series and drop yourself now. And do they have to take 2 or 3 this weekend against UNC to even get into the tournament? I know they're at 42 in the RPI, but they may not finish 500 in conference.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we really only have one conference where sub 500 plays, at least in my
Relax.
opinion.
I mean, it's been shown that the committee does not take teams under 500 in any other conference. They just don't do it.
He didn't like that one. But yeah,
Sorry, reality is a hard pill to swallow there, Will. Continue.
I didn't say it was right or wrong. I was just pointing it out.
It's just a
However,
fact.
yeah, I do think they need to win the series. I mean, they put themselves in a really tough position. 31-19 overall. They're quite frankly really bad on the road.
Yeah.
6-11 away from home. But it's a rivalry series. I mean, we saw it in the ECU UNC series early on, and I know UNC wasn't quite playing their best ball at that point in the season, but you see what rivalry games can do. And this one, I believe, is at NC State, if I'm not mistaken, right? They don't do like the 3-game thing.
It's at NC State, yeah, because this was a conference, yeah.
Yeah, so all 3 are at NC State. So like, there's a world where NC State takes 2 of these, and I think if NC State gets 2 of them, finishes 500 in the conference, like you've got a legit conversation on your hand. However, I do think they have to win the series. If they lose the series, that RPI will drop down to, I don't know, 45, 46, and you're kind of looking at a spot where you think lower.
What is it? I'm sorry.
You think lower? Your reaction?
No, I think no. That was always a tough luck.
A bad spot to be in.
That's where I was going with that. Bad spot to be in. Most teams don't get in from that outside looking in, especially when you have
conference record.
Yeah, and the losing conference record, and at that point you'd be 2 to 3 games under 500 in conference, depending on what the series ends up looking like. And you have some other teams that are outside looking in that are playing better baseball than them at this moment, like Texas State being a great example. If they finish the year strong, take a couple games in the Sun Belt tournament, like. If it comes down to those 2 teams, like who are you giving the edge to? It's probably going to end up being Texas State, quite frankly.
Yeah, TCU, Arizona State, Purdue, they're all right around them, and I would put in any of those teams above NC State today. And that's the problem, I think, for NC State when they look at it. They have to take care of. Now, they go win 2 of 3 at home against UNC. They're going to be up in the 30s. They're fine. They're in. Like, put them in. 2 of 3 is what you need to do. That they know what's in front of them. That's what they're going to have to do. The other side of this is Virginia, man. This is a team that was ranked most of the year and has really struggled lately. They may have a sub 500 record. Now, their RPI still has them at 23, and they're at Louisville. Louisville's dangerous. Like, this is not an easy series to go on the road and win at Louisville. I think Virginia's in a little bit of trouble. I think Virginia's in, though. But I think that if they don't get to 500, the committee's going to have to explain some stuff. They're going to have to really lean hard and say, oh, it's RPI based, because Virginia will not have a winning record in conference or even a 500 record in conference. Jason, we've talked a lot about this team and their struggles. It doesn't look good for Virginia, and they struggled this weekend against Cal. They got beat up. Cal was the better team.
Yeah, but I think they have enough on their resume that I think they're okay. I think maybe in another year where the bubble wasn't so bad.
Soft.
I don't think it's the bubble's bad. Yeah, I think soft is a good way to put it. It's voluminous. There are a ton of teams on the bubble. So because you have so many teams on the bubble, if you had some form of meat on the bone for the committee to at least chew on, especially if that meat is associated with the RPI, which their RPI is still pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm not as worried about Virginia. They may not get to 500, but I'm sure they'll make some argument. Well, they got to 16 last year. We didn't let them in, so we felt bad, and blah, 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 blah.
That's what
they'll probably make some sort of comment.
I wonder if last year's exclusion will be part of it, because realistically, they missed last year because
they said they excluded them because of RPI.
The Florida State,
the
Florida State series.
Because of the Florida State series,
because they had to cancel Florida State series.
It wasn't that they didn't get any wins. Like, even if they had went 0-3 in that series, they would have gotten an RPI bump. So it's like, I wonder if that'll be a factor in their decision there.
Yep, and the RPI is going to pretty much stay the same because they're on the road at Louisville, and if they take 2 of 3, it's no question. To take 1 game or no games, then there's a question about where that ends up, because I still think it's going to be between that 23 and 27 RPI. I don't even think they jump into the 30s with 3 losses because it's a road series at Louisville. So interesting spaces here where we're talking about this. And Wake, back in the host conversation, right? Like, they're fringe hosts now. They've played their way into it. If they sweep this weekend, they get 17 conference wins. Will, I know I kept saying, no, they're not in there. But then I look at the RPI. And I look at their conference wins, and they're ahead of these teams that we just talked about, NC State and Louisville, and Virginia. Like, is there a way that they host if they sweep this weekend? Do they still have to do some work in the conference tournament?
I do not think this is a hosting team, and I know the RPI might disagree with me.
They're 17.
They're right there, 14 and 13 in the conference. To me, the eye test of the resume doesn't get me excited as a host team. Like, you look up and down at their schedule and you look at who they've beaten in conference play specifically. Like, their two biggest tests being Florida State and Georgia Tech, they got swept by both.
Yeah.
Like, they lost the series to Virginia. I mean, you look at their entire ACC series play, they lost the series to Miami. Like, their best in-conference series win is between Pitt and NC State. Or maybe
two non-tournament teams, three non-tournament teams.
Agreed, and they I believe they split the midweeks with Coastal. I believe they went 1-1 against Coastal in midweeks.
Both
so,
like,
to me, I know the RPI disagrees with this take, but you look at that schedule, and I honestly don't know how that they're 17th in the RPI. I genuinely don't. Especially only, if they were maybe 18 wins in conference play, I'd say there's definitely there's something there. But the three really competitive, I guess, most competitive series they've played in, they've won 1 out of 9 games. So
6 and 14 in Q1.
Yeah, to me, there's no chance of hosting personally.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're not in. Like, I think this is a team that's comfortably in. I think it's a really scary team that gets in. Like, when this team plays well, like, they look freaking good. Like, they played some really good baseball at times. I just think you have to look at what they've done against top competition, against teams that are in the host conversation, and they haven't done anything against any of them. So to me, it's like no chance. Even if they were to win the conference tournament, I still don't think that they would host. But I think they're very comfortably in. This is not a team that I would love to run into in a regional setting, but for me, it's a definite no.
Yeah, to me, they're the ACC's Oklahoma, where they beat the teams that they're better than and they lose to the teams that they're worse than. And that's how it feels like every single weekend for this Wake Forest team. Like, I think that they're dangerous, and they're going to really be dangerous in maybe a regional where they could go out and beat somebody that they're probably fringe equal to. But it feels like the teams that are better than them are head and shoulders better than them, and they show up on the weekends. Like, it really does us drive when we look at it. So, Jason, any thoughts on Wake Forest hosting? I'm out, but I know that the RPI says that they're very close.
I'm in on Wake Forest. Our system loves
Computer loves them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I know ELO. It's who they've beaten.
I was gonna say it's
and not only that, but beaten. And they should have taken 2 of 3 from Georgia Tech. And I know there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, blah blah blah. But they're 7-3 in their last 10, and their 3 losses are to Georgia Tech. And they looked like the better team in 2 of those losses. Yeah. Again, like, doesn't matter if you look like the better team. It's just, are you the better team? And clearly they weren't. They lost all 3. But I don't think you look at a sweep and, like, take away it. Almost similar to what we were talking about with USC and UCLA, a month and a half ago. It's like, maybe we feel better about USC after that. I came out of that thinking, like, okay, like, the numbers aren't lying on this team. Yeah, the schedule looks wonky. The record looks wonky, but clearly they've got a lot of talent that they can string together and be, mayhem. So I know it was Western Carolina, but they dog walked them, and that was a sneaky weekend.
That's a tournament fringe team.
Like, Western Carolina was going in there basically saying, like, if we pull 2 or 3 here, we may not even have to win the Southern Conference. Like, Mercer could win it, and we could still get in. I think it was, you look at Boston College as a great example. I think they kind of slept a little bit through that, and they went 1-1 against NGIT. Wake could have had the exact same, and it wasn't close. So, I mean, I like this Wake team. I don't know whether they'll be. Some computer systems really like them, some not as much. But I think they're right there on the edge of hosting, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them hosting. Would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. And they got 3 against the worst team right now in college, in ACC, which is Duke, which was not the case 4 weeks ago. But now Duke is the worst team in college in ACC.
They should have beat Georgia Tech game 1.
It's a tough Duke team. Yeah.
Was game 1 the one they were up like 10-0 and lost? Yeah. Game 1. Yeah, that one was unbelievable. And then I think
Duke's
it was game 3 that, game 3, I think they kind of choked late as well.
Like, I mean, they're such a weird team. Like, watching versus Boston College, it's like, man, what happened? And then you watch them versus like North Carolina, and they played them pretty well a couple of good. And Georgia Tech, they played them. I mean, it just feels like they've had some bad luck mixed with some just like bad games. So I don't know. I could see it being closer, just because it is a rivalry game. It's a North Carolina rivalry game.
100%. Can't wait. Lots of news there in ACC. Can't wait for this weekend. We'll talk more about that on the Wednesday show as we break down those weekend series. Big 12 ball. West Virginia is the story. Going in and sweeping Kansas at Kansas. Wow, taking care of business. Jason, I know that we've watched a lot of those ball games, and we've talked to a lot of those coaches on both sides. I came away more impressed with West Virginia than I was disappointed in Kansas. Like, yeah, Kansas didn't play its best ball that weekend, but West Virginia really impressed the crap out of me, and they have enough pitching, I feel. Like, I didn't feel like they had enough pitching going into the weekend. Now I feel like they might have enough pitching to get there.
Well, one of the comments I was going to make is if they only pitch 5 guys like they did, you're in trouble. Like, you're in trouble, bubble. Like, that's just kind of how it is. Like, if you can't get to the back end of their bullpen, it's going to be a real struggle. I was talking with one of the coaches, and we were like going through like different permutations of like their win percentages, because I basically, like, I'm trying to think of like the formula I have is pretty damn complex, and so I'm trying to think of like maybe there's something else I can put in there, like to like some uniqueness that I'm just not thinking of like, hey, they do the small things, or maybe like if they don't need a lot to win. I kind of feel like that's the way it is with West Virginia. Like they're 17-1 in games where they have 2 or more extra base hits and 2 or more stolen bases. They're 15-3 when they have 4 or more extra base hits. So basically, like, they don't need a lot of production. If they get a couple of doubles, they're pretty damn hard to beat. And so when they put up some long balls like they were doing at Kansas, like, again, like, they're a hard team to beat. And if you can't get to their bullpen, they're a real hard team to beat. So yeah, like, you're going to have some wonky midweeks because, again, like, you're not playing those top 5 pitchers, but that just doesn't really show the quality of the team that they are. And sometimes that does throw some things off, because when you look at things in the aggregate, like, it is a little hard to discredit like a 20-run loss, even if it is in the midweek. But again, really like this team. I think they're sitting very pretty right now for a host. They just need to finish strong. I would say win 2 or 3 and win 1 in the tournament, and I think they're good.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's the same for Kansas, honestly, because they're at BYU. They take care of business and win 2 or 3, they win the conference. And I'm going to say the same thing about them. Like, that's a host team. That's a very good baseball team. I'm comfortable with both those teams being the host teams. I said this last week. I said if West Virginia comes in here and wins the series, they're the 2 hosts. The only team that I think is outside coming closer is Cincinnati, and they're getting closer every single week, and they're playing good baseball. They're playing probably their best baseball, and they're in the top 20 in RPI. But I don't know if Cincinnati has enough because of who they play down the stretch here. Big win for West Virginia. I mean, and Kansas, I don't think it kills Kansas. People are like, oh, Kansas should never been a top 15 team. No, Kansas is a top 15 team. Don't torpedo them just because they had a bad weekend against a very good top 15 team also.
Yeah, and kind of on that point, I don't know that they are a top 8 team, but they're certainly a top 16 team. That's kind of how I feel about Kansas.
Good.
I saw a stat coming into the weekend. West Virginia was 20-4 in games where Chanson Cole or Max Yell appeared in. And of course they come out and they win both of those games. Max Yell throws a complete game, and then they really just took it to Kansas in game 3. And that game was close early. Like, Kansas went ahead early. It's kind of like 3-3, I think, in the third or so. It's like, there's gonna be a really fun game 3. Kansas would be huge if they pull out a win on getaway day. And West Virginia just blew it open. I mean, talk about a really impressive win. I think the game 3 was most impressive for me, for West Virginia to kind of fight and claw early and then just blow the thing open midway through the game. So that was awesome to see. Big people and programs team right there. Absolutely love that coaching staff, what they're doing in the development world. Honestly, both those schools are doing a tremendous job in terms of player development, bringing in the right guys that maybe aren't the high level D1 guys, but they're bringing in these guys that are just putting it together, man. These teams are
developing
so much
them,
fun.
man.
Yeah, and West Virginia is really, really good. I think, they've had some stumbles at times. They've also had some injury stuff go down. You had some locker room stuff that probably, derailed them for a week or so. This is a really good team. There's a lot of really good players. Gavin Kelly is just a monster. That kid is unbelievable. There's so many fun players in that lineup.
Big 12 player of the year next year.
I don't know with Landon with Harrison back, it's really hard to say. Really tough to say for
just
me.
saying,
But
just saying,
I
Kelly's
I
good.
do love. I like both these teams. I would love to see a Morgantown regional. That place is going to be absolutely on fire for a regional.
Yeah, I think that both those schools host. I think Cincinnati is a good conversation. And I think Oklahoma State, as much as I've talked about them the last 5 weeks, this weekend's win was massive against Arizona State. Jason, we've talked about this. I kept saying, watch out. Oklahoma State's getting closer and closer to a host conversation.
So, Will, we're going to need to start making some shirts because I've written on my thing, it has Oklahoma State is entering wagon mode for me. I really like this team. Really like this team. Now, could I see them going 0-2 in barbecue? Yeah, I for sure could because they'll have 15 Ks in both games. And then I'll look back and be like, what was I smoking? But I could also see Colin Ritchie going like 4 for 5 with 3 bombs and everyone being like, where'd this kid come from? And be like, well, I guess you don't watch,
he's got 25 home runs.
Yeah. So I really like this team. Elite top end of the lineup with some power arms. Again, if you haven't seen Lund pitch, like really great. The Carlone Lund game on that Friday night, that was a really great game. I think it was like 3-3 in the 8th, and it kind of felt like it was anyone's game. So I really like this Oklahoma State team. I don't know where they're at. I said this, I know, with you and Noah on Saturdays. I think they could sneakily try to find their way into a host spot. Now,
very close.
It'd be very hard. It'd be very hard because you basically have to leapfrog Cincinnati, and you may even have to potentially try to leapfrog West Virginia. Like, I don't know, like, what system they're going to be using. RPI doesn't like West Virginia as much as DSR likes West Virginia, and there's a big battle right now of which one's better, where they're going to go, who knows. But you basically... I mean, they gave them 0 hosts last year. So I don't think there's any way they're going to go 3 or 4. So I think it'll be really hard, but I also don't think it's impossible.
Oklahoma State up to 20 in DSR. And so, like, that's the thing. Oklahoma State is higher than West Virginia in DSR. Actually, no, West Virginia's at 9 in DSR. So, like, depends on if you're using RPI or DSR, but they're all 3 of those teams between Kansas, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State now are very close. Cincy also very close. So, like,
and Chinook in the comments wants to let you know, Mark, that with all of that hair, how do you have that many hats? He said the math ain't mathin'. So
you know, I love
some
my
real
hat
nice
collection.
comment for the hair.
I kind of wear them when I'm golfing. Other than that, I kind of let the hair flow. Like I am the talking hairdo, nice. So I kind of just let it go. So, but when I'm golfing, I love to wear my hats out. I love to wear these hats out. They're not just for show. I do wear all my hats, so they don't just sit up here all the time. They do get worn quite frequently, but it's usually when I'm golfing or if I'm taking my nephew somewhere. So I enjoy the hat collection. But thank you. Yes, I do love the hats. Let's talk about 7 teams in, Will? 7? Like, is that our cut line now? Because I think we've kind of cut it to where BYU's out, and we're looking at UCF and TCU are both in for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Like, again, I think you look at last year in terms of the lack of host representation, and you're more questioning how many hosts is the Big 12 going to get. I think comfortably 2. At this point, I do believe it's comfortably 2. But you said, I mean, I think all those teams are in, especially when you look at the way that Oklahoma State got in last year with the 500 Big 12 record. I know they got really hot late, but they were a team that really struggled early last season. Kind of honestly very similar to this year, but just a little bit more last year. They've also been a team that has dealt with some injuries, but I would say all of those teams in.
Yeah. Yep. I think we're 7 in. And I mean, with the bubble, the way it is, the softness of where the SEC teams have dropped out and we don't have 14 now, 7's the number. And I think that also with the SEC, you might look at not as many host teams. So it could be more of hey, do we get 3 in because of how many less host teams? And I think the ACC also less host teams. I think the ACC is looking at 3 hosts and maybe not even a 4th one now with Boston College struggling. It's going to be interesting. That's why I kind of threw Wake Forest out there as a possible host because the ACC just doesn't have that many in that host conversation right now.
Somebody's got a host.
They could get there. Yeah. And I don't think Miami gets up there. As much as I love Miami, I don't think that they can crack that host bubble now.
You could get 4 Big Tens. I know that sounds batshit bananas.
I think it's at least 2 and possibly 3 or 4.
USC's still 8th in the RPI. Like, that's hosting. I'm sorry. Unless the committee just woke up and said, never mind, like screw everything we've done in the
no
past.
RPI.
That's hosting.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're
like
going
I
on the
get
road
all
to
the
Oregon,
like
so they're
the
not going to
zero
drop
quad
their RPI
ones.
that much, even if they don't win a game.
Yeah, but quad one, like that's an RPI like designation. So it's kind of like an oxymoron to say like, well, look how good their RPI is, and then be like, well, their RPI variables aren't very good. It's like that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like if I add 2 to 100,000, I still have 100,002. That's a goddamn good number. Like I don't give a shit about the two. So like I don't know. Yeah, I and everyone was like, "Oh, the Lincoln Memorial's like the Lincoln Regional's dead." No, look at where they're at. Like they're perfectly fine. So you've got three Big Ten teams that I think will be pushing for it. UCLA, of course. I mean,
UCLA's in.
We don't even talk about it. Stop giving me UCLA. They're good.
We get it. UCLA is good. I mean, I really should just not assign that team because we know that they're number one.
Yeah, just hold up a sign that says like hashtag good or something.
Hashtag good. And we know this weekend, really good series against Oregon. We can talk about that right now because the first game, all UCLA. They came out and showed why they're the number 2 team in the country. They 10 ran Oregon, really took it to that pitching staff. Game 2, Oregon shows fight and bounces all the way back and scores late and beats them 9-6. Oregon had the lead for almost all of Game 3 until the 8th inning. They blew that game. Dean West, massive grand slam home run, huge come through for him. UCLA showed why they're the number 1 team. Oregon showed why they should be a host. When I look at it, like Oregon showed that they should be in that host conversation. If they take care of business this weekend against USC, I said all week, it's whoever wins this series. The winner of this series for me is a host. If USC wins this series at Oregon not a host, USC a host. If Oregon wins, Oregon hosts, maybe USC doesn't host. Like that's how it feels to me, like the winner of this series hosts. Jason, I know you got something to say about it now.
If USC takes one, their RPI is probably going to rise.
It will.
Guess what? That's your first Q1 win. That's your first Q1 win right there. Like, oh, now I feel good about my designation. Like, no, like their RPI will probably rise.
Yeah,
like, probably.
And Oregon's RPI is going to rise as long as they win 2 games.
I mean, like, if they go 1-2 at Oregon, like that's going to be their best win. They're going to have their best win by like the resume. Like it's probably going to go up. So they're probably still going to be a top 10 RPI team. They'd have to. I'd love to see that post-selection committee where they're like, well, you know, the reason we decided to do this, and there'd be so many looped logical like sentences within that honestly, like I feel bad for the committee, but also they've kind of made the bed and now they have to sleep in it. So continue.
Yeah. I don't want to be the committee this year because it's going to be a mess for those 16.
I'd be so transparent. I'd be so goddamn transparent.
I mean, I'm so transparent every Monday. I show my personal poll that's used in 2 different polls across the country every single Monday to tell people where I'm at. And I love it. But Jason, it's going to be hard to select these 16 teams come selection Monday. I think that the conference tournaments might have something to do with it still. Yeah.
I mean, we said on Saturday, I was like, hey, I think Kansas's floor is 12. And, well, shit, maybe not. Their RPI is like 21 16. Now.
Because their RPI jumps up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Their RPI is in the 20s now. So I just, I don't know. This whole season from 10 for me to basically like 40, I don't goddamn know. Like, I think that's why sometimes it's really hard to say, like, why is this team above that team and that team? Because, who's the guy who's Friday starters? He's now with D1 baseball. He's phenomenal.
Smart.
Bradley. He has this like ring of ACC games, basically like this team A beat team B, team B beat team C, all the way to like team, K beat team A. So you can just do like this like logical loop of teams beating one another. And I think it's just it's hard to say like, oh, because my team beat your team, therefore your team is worse than my team. Because if you get into that argument, eventually like it comes into, well, we beat team C and you lost to team C. So like, where does that put us then? So I don't know. I think the committee has their work cut out for them. And it'll be fun to watch the selection show. That'll be a good way to put it.
We'll be live Monday morning when that releases. Cannot wait to be live watching that show and broadcasting with y'all. Listen, It's going to be weird because what do we do with Purdue and Michigan, Will? Those are two teams that have risen. Michigan's RPI keeps rising. Purdue could be a 20-plus win team in conference. I know we talked about them last year and how Iowa didn't get in. Purdue has a win against Oregon. And they beat Oregon once. And if we're talking about Oregon being a host team and Purdue keeps taking care of business, they're ahead right now. They might get a first-round bye in the Big Ten tournament, depending on how this happens. USC or Oregon could drop out of the top 4 in Big Ten, and one of those two teams may not be in the first-round bye.
Yeah, I think Purdue is this year's Iowa, and there's no other parallel for me because, quite frankly, the Big Ten schedule they played was essentially Iowa's last year. It really was it almost identical in terms of like the strength of teams they played within the conference. Now, Michigan is a little bit more interesting because Michigan still has the strong Q2 record. I mean, you look at Purdue and what they've done against Qs 1 and 2, and I believe it's 2-9 or 5-9. 5-9. Michigan has the winning record in Q2, 4-9 in Q1. Some quality wins early in the season. That's a team that just loves to get hot really early. I think Michigan has more of a leg to stand on than Purdue. That's kind of where I sit with it. I think Purdue is just this year's Iowa, and I think that's kind of just that. And they're probably going to get looked over because it's a Big Ten team. So even though it's 20 wins, 20 wins is 20 wins. It's the Big Ten, but then they look even further into that, and it wasn't against those other top teams. So that's just kind of where I think Purdue lands, especially with this year's bubble. Like Jason was saying, when the bubble is as soft or however you want to frame it, like when you're putting Purdue, Kentucky, UC Santa Barbara, UCF, Miami, kind of all in that same grouping, it's like, wow, is Purdue really better than any of those teams? Even Mercer, for what it's worth. It's like I'd probably take all of those teams above Purdue, quite frankly. So I don't think Purdue, but I think Michigan does have more of an interesting leg to stand on. And yeah, they absolutely could be, get the bye in the Big Ten tournament, which would be wild. But
listen, if Purdue gets a bye in the Big Ten tournament and they win a semifinal game, it's going to be hard for me to say that they don't deserve to be in. Now, do I think that happens? No. I mean, there's teams that are not.
Here's a great question, because the strength of schedule has been the contingency on Jacksonville State a lot. And I know a lot of the computers really like Jacksonville State, but if it came down to it, you're taking Jacksonville State or you're taking Purdue?
I'm taking Purdue. I think Purdue's a better baseball team than Jacksonville State. So that's where I sit on it. I just think that they're better. But I think that the Big Ten is better than it was last year. I think the Big Ten in general overall is better than it was last year with the talent-wise. I think that there's a lot of teams that are a lot better this year. But I don't know. We'll see what the committee thinks of when we get to there. Speaking of getting better, visual edge, man. These guys just help you continue to get better at baseball. It's all about processing the speed, right? You lift, you hit, you watch film, but are you really training how fast you process the game? At the college level, the speed jump is real. Even if you're slightly late at recognizing spin or depth, you're already way behind. You have no chance of catching up. Visual edge trains the visual and cognitive skills that sit underneath performance. Pitch recognition, tracking accuracy, reaction time, and decision speed all come to edge. Begin with the edge test. It benchmarks you against other players your age and level, so you can actually see your numbers. Then it builds a system personalized plan designed specifically for you to make you better. 15 minutes a day is all it takes. One short session on your laptop or tablet, in your dorm room, at home, on the road, wherever you are, you want to be better. Take the time to do it. Anything bigger than a phone works. Listeners of this show can use code CBSHOW for first month free 3D glasses, free shipping, no long-term contract. Cancel at any time. Go to visualedge.com/sign up and use code CBSHOW. That's visual with a Z. When the game speeds up, train yourself to slow it down. Let's get into some of these top 25, boys. Welcome Oklahoma State and Tennessee back into the top 25. Oklahoma State first time this year, and Tennessee back in. Virginia and Boston College drop out. A surprise to you, Will?
Not really. I think Boston College was probably the toughest one.
Closest, yeah.
But when you schedule a bye week and I understand it was a doubleheader. Like we've talked about it before. I've talked about it ad nauseum
really hard
on
to
this
win
show. Yeah, really tough to win 2 on a doubleheader, regardless of who it's against. Still 18 innings in the span of 6 hours. Like it's still a tough day. But when you schedule a bye week and you just don't kind of beat up on them, and then you have Tennessee that put together just a ridiculously good weekend, and you put Oklahoma State, who had a ridiculously good weekend, and and has played unbelievably well the last couple of weeks, as has Tennessee. It's kind of like who's playing better baseball right now. And I would argue that both those teams are playing better baseball than Boston College. As much as I love Boston College, I've wrote about it multiple times in the last couple of weeks. BC's really hanging their hat on the Virginia series win, which no longer looks like a really good series win anymore. It doesn't. I mean, it's. I'm not going to say it's not a good series win, but it's not what we thought it was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Virginia was a borderline top 8 team 4 weeks ago. We were talking about them being like, are they going to be a national seed? They beat UNC. They've looked really good. So I think when you look at the resume as a whole for Boston College, and you say they're kind of hanging their hat on the Virginia series. Yes, they have 17 ACC wins. There's a lot to be said for that. It's just that grouping, right? That grouping of 20 to 30 is really, really close. And I think it's fair to have the two teams that are playing arguably a lot better baseball right now to be slotted in over them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's where I had it, and I think that those are the two teams that should be in. Like, it just seemed like a better fit there. Jason, any qualms about dropping out Virginia and Boston College?
Negative, ditto on everything Will said. I think it's just to the point of, almost similar to what we talked about with Oklahoma last week, that some of these teams, like, you get really excited about, but then when you start to look at the totality of their schedule, I mean, for me, like, Boston College is maybe a little bit different. Because, again, you're talking about a team with 17 ACC
conference wins.
Like, is it a little bit like, hey, are we trying to convince ourselves that they're not a top 25 team just because they had a slip? Like, let's not forget, a lot of teams have lost to some teams that they probably shouldn't have. Like, Florida should have gotten swept at the beginning of the year by a team I've forgotten. I'm sorry.
High Point?
I should have remembered right about it. High Point. Gosh, how could I forget High Point? But so, I mean, ultimately, I think it's not surprising, but I would say I think that Boston College, in my opinion, is maybe still like the top 20. They're both top 25 caliber teams. I just think, again, that 25 to 40 is such a mush that it's just kind of a rotating door of who wants to go in or go out in that 20 through 25.
Yeah, I think for me, it's thinned down a little bit to almost like 26 through 30 is like almost those top 25 teams. Like, I think that there's a line there now where those 31 plus is kind of fallen back a little bit further, but there's like 5 more teams you could throw in that top 25 and I'd be fine with it. Like, they're that close to being to that range there. But the team that is 25th, Arizona State, hangs on, Will, drops 10. They are bubbled in still, which would never have been said 2 weeks ago. But they are hanging on by a thread right now, high in the RPI at 48 now. They got to take care of some business this weekend.
I'll be 100% honest. I don't know, but maybe Mark will know better than I do. Why does RPI hate ASU this year? I mean, they lost one. I genuinely, like, I can't understand.
I don't understand it.
They have the series even before it scratched this weekend. So it's not even talking about the Oklahoma State series. Their one conference loss was against West Virginia, who is like arguably a top 10 team in the country. We have them at 13. Other places have them at 8. Like, I think you can slot them anywhere in those 5 spots. Or maybe, Jason, with all the computer stuff you do, like, why does RPI not like ASU? Is it just the pitching? And then you look at the non-con stuff. Like, they went down to Arlington and they played 3 really competitive games against 3 teams that are all in the top 25. They split with Oklahoma, who I know is like, a bubble top 25 team. They're in that 25 to 40 range. But to me, like, it just doesn't sound right when I look at ASU and see 17 conference wins. Prior to this weekend, your one conference loss was against a top 10 team in the country. I don't really know why RPI doesn't like ASU.
I can't figure honestly, it out. They're 11-5 on the road too. It's not even like they're bad on the road.
I don't think I could fully tell you. I think, if I were to try to guesstimate without doing a deep dive, my assumption is that if you look at it within a quadrant, the quadrants don't make a lot of sense, but probably a lot of those games are even at like the tail edge of those quadrants. So, I mean, I'll just dive in deep to Arizona State. And so, like, I'll go to like their individual games. Let's look at their RPI team sheet.
Some of their individual losses, even though they didn't.
Yeah. So, like, their best win is, let's see, West Virginia at home, 18. So and then Oklahoma on the road, and then UCF a couple. So, I mean, basically, like, they have 2 top 20 RPI wins. So kind of like their quad ones are like on the edge of a quad one. And then you look at like their quad twos, it's kind of on the edge. Two of them are BYU on the edge. And then you look at their quad threes, it's like on the edge, UNLV, Grand Canyon, Arizona. Arizona is on our edge Q4 games for them. So a lot
could
of
be by the end of the weekend.
yeah, a lot of games that like are right on the edge. But still, I agree with
Purdue
you.
is higher than them in the RPI. That's what I don't get. Like they have Purdue higher in the RPI than Arizona State.
I'm not gonna try to explain RPI. It's batshit crazy. Because I agree with you.
They might finish with 19 wins in Big 12 play, and we're talking about this team being a bubble in team. Like to me, like they're in. Like
you want me to tell you the main reason?
I would love it. I don't get it.
19 games away from home. That's it.
That's it.
I found it.
Too many games at home.
That's what it. Too many games at home.
So stupid.
So it is.
Yeah, what? We're talking about a team that's bubble or that they're bubble in.
And they didn't win a neutral site game. They went
100%. So look at Purdue. Purdue has 24 games on the road. Look at Gonzaga above them, 34 games on the road. Look at Pittsburgh above them. They've got 28 games on the road.
Northern teams that play on the road to start.
Yeah. TCU is very similar. TCU only has 22 games on the road, and that's why they're probably 44th as well. So again, like Texas State, also very similar, only 21 games on the road. The RPI is a formula, and they give 1.3 wins to games on the road. They give 0.7 to games at home. So if you play a bad team at home, it's a double whammy. And so they've played a lot of bad teams at home, and they've just played straight a lot of bad teams. Sam, I would say Southern Miss would probably be like 9 to 12 right now. What do you guys think?
Not a top 8 seed. No.
Yeah, I would say 9 to 12.
Yeah, not a national.
I don't think they even have a chance of getting into a national seed.
I don't think Southern Miss, but
I think they're still 9 to 12. What's their RPI? Their RPI is like what, 11? 9. Yeah, I would say that Southern Miss is right. Again, like
if they win the Sun Belt Conference tournament, I think there's a legit chance. Especially when you look at like USC isn't going to be a national seed. I don't think Florida State's a national seed. Georgia will be, but they're 14th. So like there's some wiggle.
Look at Oregon State last year. They're basically Oregon State. It's like when people looked at it, like, oh, this resume doesn't look like a top 8, and they were right exactly where Oregon State was. And so if they win it and they're like 7th or 8th, I could easily see.
They win out. I could give it to them. That'd be fine. I'd be fine. But they have to win out. They can't lose another game, so they can't lose a game this weekend, and they'd have to win the conference tournament. Like if you do those things, I could make an argument for it. But for me, they're not an 8. They're not a top 8 right now. They'll probably
not
host.
Right now. I agree.
Yeah, they'll probably host though. Number 24, Oklahoma State. We talked about them a lot. Big. I mean, here's the thing: they have superstars. Bruggerman's getting going too with Colin Ritchie. So now you got 2 enormous sluggers that hit the ball real far and can make you pay. Now they have a guy coming out of the bullpen that can just give them innings and depth. Like they have arms that have gotten healthy throughout the season. People forget they had arm injuries. All their dudes went down to start the season. They had no arms. They had to figure this thing out on the fly. This is a team that's gone through a lot of adversity, gotten better every single week. Now they got a Friday night ace. And they've got some hitters that can hit the ball a long ways. Even though they strike out, they might strike out 4 times, but they might hit a home run that's a 3-run bomb that's the difference maker. Like that's this Oklahoma State team. Do I think they host? I don't. But I think that there's a way for them, but they probably have to win the Big 12 tournament. But I like this Oklahoma State team. They're going to be a real dangerous 2 seed wherever they go because of how talented this team is. This team can hit the ball out of any ballpark in America. But if you put them in a small ballpark, say you send them to like a Georgia or you send them to Oregon, they're going to hit a lot of home runs in those ballparks. They're going to hit a lot of home runs, and it's going to be real difficult for somebody.
They better not go to a Georgia because then they've really fucked up the seeding.
I mean, you never know what the committee's going to say as a 2 seed. They could be like, oh, you know what? This team's now 29, so they're going to Georgia.
And I don't want to get sidetracked, but that is one of the they really messed up. I don't want to curse too much, so I'm tired and probably get a little crazy. They've put like these seedings on there. Have you guys seen this? It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So now you can't really ever say like a 3 seed anymore because now a 3 seed is actually more like a 12. Like it's like a 12 national seed. So you're gonna have 4 number 1s, 4 number 2s, 4 number 3s, 4 like it's beyond stupid. And it looks incredibly confusing. And so in theory, you should be able to like reverse engineer what they have as the 1 through 32, but they also don't tell you like the 32. So you could be right. They could just like flub it and say like, oh, like,
And
this
you can't
team's
have
actually
SEC
a
teams playing
7
each other.
seed. Yeah. So
That's
that
the
would
hard
be
part.
worst case scenario for Georgia. I mean, they would be very similar because Oklahoma State went to Georgia last year, right? It was Duke,
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, Georgia, and I can't remember the fourth team. That was such a fun regional.
Yeah. And Ryan, to your point, I'm not saying that Georgia's a small ballpark to left, but both those hitters are pull hitters that are going to hit the ball to right center.
Oh.
It's small for those two hitters.
Ryan, it's 360 to right center field. Like
right
it
center
is
teeny.
It's teeny tiny. But don't get me wrong, like that's
left
who cares.
Deep.
Left field, like the Tennessee bomb that Levi Clark hit, where he pimped it and it went to the warning track. It's because that ball's in the Uber Eats seats at Lindsey Nelson because it is so deep to left field.
Yeah, and 100%. And Ryan, I wasn't trying to say Georgia. I'm just saying for those two particular hitters that are hitting the ball to right center and right field a lot, it's short on that side for those two guys.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Number 23, Nebraska down 1. Jason, this is more just the product of the teams ahead of them. Just played better this weekend. Like Nebraska didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't play as good as the other
biggest
teams.
takeaway for me this weekend is they got a sweep and JASA got back on track. Really that. Yeah, if you were to take two things away from it, went 7 with no earn. He had I think 9 Ks, 2 walks. Game 2 looked a little bit hairy in the 8th, but then of course our boy Carey hit a 3-run bomb and really kind of shifted that around. So really, I mean, it's Sanderson, Grego, Carey, Moyer. If those 4 are going, if it's in Lincoln, it's going to be really hard to beat them. I hope it is. I hope they get a regional. I mean, seeing that USC series, how like 8, fun that atmosphere looked. My hope is that they're able to do that.
Yeah, 8,000 in front of that fans would be 8,000 fans screaming at that would be just a blast. I honestly believe that. I'm 100% on with that. They got some work to do. I think they're probably going to have to win a game in the tournament as well. But I like this Nebraska team a lot. I think that with JASA going too, they've gotten a lot better. Number 22, Tennessee. Jason, they're back in the top 25. This is a good baseball team. They've played some good baseball as of late. They've done the formula. Hot to start, cool off in the middle, and hot again at the end. That's what you want to be for an Omaha team.
Yeah, you talk about a phenomenal environment. Holy Lindsey Nelson. I was talking to their coaching staff today, and I basically said, like, incredible environment that was. Yeah, Grinlinger, yeah, there it is. Lovely. Was that Tennessee or Texas? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so Grinlinger has kind of quietly pushed himself into, I mean, maybe not even quietly. I mean, maybe I'm just the only one thinking SEC freshman of the year territory. Now, I still think it's going to be him, Peck. Who is the guy from Mississippi State? Why is he escaping me?
Harper.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like there's kind of a 3-horse race as freshman of the year. I'm sure someone's going to correct me that there's a 4th or a 5th, but Grinlinger has been incredible. And while Clark kind of struggled this weekend, he has an OPS over 1 dot from April forward. So I remember when we were talking about them struggling at the beginning of the year, it was like, what is Levi Clark doing? It just wasn't there. He's turned it around a little bit. But, the one guy that just is a massive confusion for me is Ford for them. I mean, kind of like elite portal player, everyone was kind of saying, hey, is he going to be pushing like first round? But now, I mean, he may be a 6th or 7th best hitter on this team for a team that's a sub 900 OPS as a group. And I know that sounds like really high, but in college baseball, that's like top 30. And so he's really good still, but he just hasn't been that 25 home run. Basically what we thought what he was going to replicate what Andrew Fisher did. So I still really like this team. They've got one of the best rotations. Coons is incredible. What he did was incredible. Again, I think I said it previously. What that really showed me was the ceiling of Tennessee, because really, with the regional, super regional, Omaha, final bracket, it's just, can you get out of a loser's bracket? Because, a lot of times you're not going to go 3-0. So do you have some pitching depth? And then at a super is do you have a freak? Do you have a freak starting pitcher? Because what is it, 80% of the teams who win game 1 win the supers. So if you have a freak you can throw out there like a Coons, you look really good going into the supers. And then it's the exact same thought process in Omaha. So I mean, if you have that guy who can just be an absolute stud on a Friday against an elite team like Texas, like your ceiling is incredibly high. You just need to get a little bit more depth out of their lineup. I mean, it's still like the top is really good. They just a little bit more depth. And honestly, I think 22 could be low for them. If I were to say like buy low, sell high, I would. And again, I always say this comment like 22 is not low, but I would say like this is a low number for Tennessee. I would buy it.
I think that both Will and I have had them ranked the last 2 weeks, and we were in the minority last week where we said, hey, this team's really good. They're going the right direction. And then they proved it again this weekend. I was like, yeah, this is a very good baseball team. They have so many weapons. They scare me. And if they end up as a 2 seed, because if they don't get a host for, just because they're midseason woes, they're going to be a real dangerous 2 seed. They can hit. They have the pitching. I say it every year. People are like, hey, what's the formula to Omaha? Have a lineup that can hit with anybody, have a bullpen arm that's electric, and have a dude on Fridays. Like, that's how you get to Omaha. If you have those pieces, and they have them. Cam Appenzeller, while he's struggled a little bit lately, it's still a dude out of the bullpen. Like, he still gives you that elite leverage that you're looking for out of the bullpen arm. And the lineup now can hit with anybody, and they got a Friday night guy in Coons, and they've got even more arm weapons also for the rest of the weekend. So I like them. You have to have a horse on Fridays. They got one, and now they've got the lineup that's matching. So I like it a lot. Cincinnati, 21 here. Stay the same. No movement for them. They took care of business. They didn't sweep Kansas State, and I think that hurt them a little bit when you're talking about hosting conversation, because they're at home this week against Texas Tech, which won't necessarily boost that RPI enough for them. They're a tough 2 seed. Bishop Ball's tough. They're going to go in there. They're going to do the little things right. They have 2 dudes that smash the ball in Quentin Coates and Jack Natilli. Like, they're going to be able to go hit with those teams. They're going to be able to play small ball. They're going to be able to pitch. Do I think they have enough elite frontline pitching? I think they don't. And to me, I think that's what keeps them at the 2 seed versus a host. I don't think that they have that elite frontline pitching, but they have a really decent bullpen. They go out there and they compete, and these guys are never down and out. I love Bishop Ball. I think that they are going to be a tough 2 seed again, like they were last year, but I do not think that they actually get to that hosting conversation. Number 20, Florida, up 3. Will, this team, it's the big enigma for me. I just still can't figure them out. Like, they looked really good game. I just don't know, man. I mean, they could look great every single weekend, or they could look terrible.
Yeah, I still don't really know what to make of them. Another series. I mean, it seems like I will say they're playing more consistently good baseball the last handful of weeks. But even when you look at the teams that they've lost to, I mean, I think the Q1 record is a little bit deceiving because a lot of their games are just naturally Q1 games. But all the teams that have been ranked higher than them in SEC play, they've lost to essentially. So other than Arkansas, which also which you could argue either way. Like, are they really lower or higher than Florida? I don't know, because I don't really know what to make of either of those teams. But this is not a team I would exactly love to see in a regional setting. It would be really funny if LSU beat them this weekend, just as like to be even more confusing. It's like LSU is officially out, and then they take 2 of 3 from Florida at the box. It just like their final send off. So I don't know. I mean, the RPI is 11, and they've got the 15 Q1 wins. I don't really know what they are, though. Obviously, Aiden King can go pitch for pitch with anybody in the country. He really can. Liam Peterson occasionally is like absurd, and the offense is about as hot and cold as it gets. So I don't really know what to make of Florida. I feel comfortable saying that they're in this range. I wouldn't fault you for putting them higher either, because it's like, well, you got 15 Q1 wins. The only team that has more is Georgia Tech. So they're a weird team to me. I don't really know.
Yeah. To me, it feels like a team that's so close to being a host, or could go 2-Q and they're in a regional. Like, that's where this team fits for me. Like, they could go instantly cold in a regional and not hit, and then they're out. You can find their way out. Or they could be a team that makes it to Omaha because they have the arms that could get there. Like, as long as they can hit, they're going to be there. But sometimes they're inconsistent hitting wise. So I like the Florida team, but they're still confusing. And Aiden is one of the best pitchers in the country. We've seen that. Like, that's just a fact. So he keeps them in any ball game, especially on a Friday night. So number 19, Ole Miss, up 5. Jason, very, very good team. We've talked about this team a lot, but not so much today. I love this team, and they're closer and closer to being a host team.
I mean, we talked about this, I think, 3 weeks ago, Will. We were looking over their schedule, and we're like, well, if they go 500, like, they should definitely be a host. I mean, they're looking pretty like better than 500 in that range.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those teams that when you have a season where there's kind of a mush and you don't really know who to put in a top 25, it's like, well, who went 3-0, who went 2-1, who went 1-2. I think this is one of those teams that, because like they've played such a hard schedule, because like you have these like times where it's like, okay, who are they? Like, they should be higher than this, frankly. I would not want to play them. Their starting rotation is one of the best in the country with Townsend and Rab and Elliott. Like, Elliott hasn't been like 100% himself. He was really, really good this weekend.
Really good this week.
Yeah, but the 2 previous weekends, it was kind of rough. I still don't like their K numbers. I mean, I saw a graphic that they put up when they played Arkansas, and Pompey, I think, was number 1 in the SEC in Ks, but they had like 2 through 5 on Ole Miss. They strike out a lot. Like, so that's definitely something to be concerned about as a team. But I also think that one thing that they'll have a blessing of, and maybe that's just my bias, but regardless of if they're 1 or 2, they're going to go to a regional that won't have an SEC team in it. So they won't have there may be like a UCSB with a Flora, or there may be like a Chanticleers with a Fluky. I don't know, but just like the concentration of elite pitching just isn't as high outside of the SEC. So I think like if you are looking for Ken Becerra or Udermark or Pano or any of those guys kind of put it together at the right moment, I think they're a team that could be really dangerous. So maybe I'm always a little buy low on the SEC teams. Apologies for that, but I just feel like this is a team that I think should be rated higher, and I think the computers show that as well.
Jason, do you think that they don't get as much credit for how good they are because they just don't have many season sweeps? Like, their only series sweep is LSU. Do you think that that's maybe why they just don't get as much love?
I think they don't get as much love. Exactly. I mean, because they had such a freaking hard schedule.
Because their schedule,
which honestly is why, and I know we'll get to Auburn later, but it's why I love, because Auburn, Alabama had played just a ridiculous schedule, and so to see Auburn like just going bananas is wild. So I for me, like I really like this team. I think they're a very well put together team, like from a roster structure standpoint. You have a ton of power. You have really good starting pitching. You have elite pitchers out of the bullpen. Like that's a really, the only thing is their defense just isn't great. They've got a bunch of like hulks out there, so they don't really like. So maybe if you get to Omaha, where the outfield is just an ocean, maybe you see a little bit, but still, like that's one of those things. If you get that far and then you're worried about it, you're still sitting in roses. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Absolutely. And just to go back to Team 20, I actually messed these teams up. I wrote them wrong. I think 20 was supposed to be Arkansas. So Florida is ranked higher than Arkansas will. So just so you can go back and you can talk about Arkansas at 20. Actually, I messed that one up. I wrote Florida in twice on my list here today. So just to be perfectly transparent as I am on every single Monday, Arkansas won this weekend, and they are at 20 here. Anything you wanted to add about Arkansas there, Will?
Jason texted.
I just looked at him like,
I can't believe you all took Arkansas this weekend. It was like, yeah, there's no way I was going to take Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the flash.
Oklahoma's not a top 25 team to me. They don't beat teams that are better than
them. Did y'all watch these games? games?
Yeah.
No, I did not watch.
I watched almost every inning.
On this? The fact that game 3, like Oklahoma, is wild to me. Their starting pitchers on Friday and Saturday, Mercurius and Johnson, went like 3 innings combined.
Smoked.
They had 2 pitchers go down with injury in relief.
I thought Cam didn't throw this weekend. I thought he got scratched.
No, he threw 2 innings.
He threw 2 innings,
and it was ugly. And Mercurius was even worse. He went 1.1 the day before.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they won game 3 is wild to me. Because they had like no pitching left. I mean, I think they were on pitcher like 11 or 12, like in the 5th inning of the Sunday game. So
on Saturday they had two guys go down with arm injuries in the same inning.
2 guys. And so you had your starting pitching Now, I can't remember the pitcher on Sunday, 99 lefty freshman. He was really good. Now, he had a really good fastball. It was one of those like fastballs of, hey, I'm going to throw, high rotation fastball, like come up and hit it. And everyone was swinging underneath it. Now, he was definitely giving up some solo home runs because guys were sitting fastball. And if they ever got it, the wind was blowing out so hard that it didn't really matter. But I just, this Arkansas team is an enigma to me. I really don't get it. I think we talked about this with Georgia when Georgia scored 7,000 runs on Sunday. Like they just don't have a ton of pitching, and they had Fisher, and everyone could like feel it. It's like, when are they going to take Fisher out? And then they brought in Brissy, and it was like grand slam. So like, it's just one of the things. It's like they just don't have the pitching depth, and I think that's. I mean, as wild it is to say, I think that's really going to bite them in the butt. The term I like to use is like off schedule. They're a team that cannot get off schedule. If they go into the losers bracket, write the obituary, because they just don't have the depth of pitching.
No. And the freshman for Oklahoma, Cord Ranger,
he was phenomenal.
6'6".
Phenomenal.
Great.
There was it was the Sunday. It was 5-1. He struck out Ruiz. Like it was a fastball, middle, and for some reason they called it a ball. And Ruiz walked. He would have been out of the inning. Then they hit a 3-run home run right after it. So his box score looks a lot worse than it actually should. He gave up a blast to Poppy, and he gave up a blast to Kojal that Kojal shouldn't have even been hitting. That screwed him bad.
Yeah, he threw well. So I wanted to make sure we got the tip of the cap to Ranger. He threw well this weekend. So that's a lot about Arkansas. We don't know where they're going to be in the host conversation. We'll talk more about them throughout the week. No, I love it, man. I'm here to talk baseball. I just screwed up the rankings and had them where they should have been 20th, and they are 20th in our poll. So we don't have to talk about Florida at 17, but we will talk about USC at 18 there, Will. This is a good baseball team, but it doesn't feel like a great baseball team, even though the RPI loves them.
Yeah, it's put up or shut up week for USC, quite frankly. They've got to go to Eugene this weekend. Again, what was it, 5 weeks ago, we walked away from the UCLA series saying like, hey, USC's maybe better than we gave them credit for, just because like the schedule wasn't incredible. This is a good weekend for them to be like, okay, are they actually really good? Or are they just going to be a 2 seed that you want no part of in a regional setting because of their 1-2 punch in the rotation? So they've got a lot to prove. I think Oregon has a lot to prove here. They're coming off of a very emotional series against UCLA. So, So I don't know. This is an interesting series. So, I mean, USC got a bye week this week. So it's kind of you kind of get the rest conversation going with USC. Like they got to beat up on Nevada all weekend. Oregon on the flip side, like gave UCLA everything they had and nearly walked away with 2 wins. So it's like they're gonna be a little sleepy against Mason Edwards, or is USC gonna be a little sleepy on Friday? So to me, it's put up or shut up. Like is USC a legit host team? And I think you're right, Mark. I think whoever wins this series is probably the second Big Ten team to get the host. Like I think one of them is going to get it. Oregon takes care of business at home. It's probably Oregon. If USC goes into Eugene and takes 2, it's 100% USC. So I think that's spot on. And this is going to be a really fun series. Really excited for this one.
Blast of a series, like honestly. And if I wasn't already making the trip up to Seattle to go watch UCLA play UW, that's where I would have been this weekend, is at Oregon USC. So, but I'm excited to be going up there to go watch UCLA play University of Washington this weekend. Number 16, Alabama, up 3. Good weekend for them. Ho-hum, they kind of went through the motions. They went out there and they got the wins that they needed to. They played really good baseball. They've been on fire now in the SEC play now. And now they have Ole Miss this weekend. And it feels to me that they could really cement themselves. Now, I know that I don't think a lot of people have them as a top 8 national seed, but if Alabama wins this weekend, they're for sure hosting. Like they can play their way into a host conversation for sure and be locked in as a host. They could lose the series and still host, but I think if they win this, they feel a lot better. And then they have that chance of being a fringe, the 8 seed in a host conversation. Like that's where this Alabama team is compared to the RPI, compared to where they are in DSR and where they are as a record and overall in SEC play. They've got their guys. They're playing good baseball. They know what they have on the mound. They know what they don't have when it comes to hitting, and they've been taking care of it. So I think it's going to be a fun series this weekend against Ole Miss. I am excited for this one. This one's probably my favorite series of the weekend for talking about who's going to be hosting and what this conversation goes. It's between Ole Miss and Arkansas, or Ole Miss and Alabama. I'm really excited for this weekend. It's a tough series. As we said, Ole Miss has maybe the most brutal schedule. Alabama's probably second or third hardest schedule in college baseball. Like, these two teams are playing one of the hardest schedules, and they get to play each other this weekend. So love that. Number 15, Kansas down 7. Tough loss for them this weekend, getting swept, no doubt. Are they still a host team? Yes, still a host. They should host at Hoagland. Like, they have 20 wins in conference. They go take care of business this weekend. They win 2 of 3 at least at BYU. They have 22 wins in conference. They're a host team. If the committee does not see them as a host team still, they're idiots because of how hot Kansas was in the middle of the season. West Virginia was playing for their life. West Virginia played very good baseball this weekend. West Virginia is a host team as well. Both those teams should host. I have no qualms about either one of them. Dominic Vagley has shown he's a Friday night ace again. He pitched really, really well against West Virginia. West Virginia just beat him. Like, it was just enough. Like, Kelly hit that ball out to right center. Smith hit a triple off the center field wall. Like, that was what was enough to beat them. That was it. The 2 extra base hits that Jason talks about, they got him. And that's kind of what beat Dominic Vagley on Friday. Like, very good Kansas team. People should not be crapping all over this Kansas team. It's still very, very good. They're going to go take care of business at BYU, show everybody they should still host. I don't care what they do in the Big 12 tournament after that. They're a host. The Hoagland's going to be crazy. Lawrence, Kansas deserves a freaking host. That's all I'll say about that. Number 14, Coastal Carolina, down 5. Will, tough weekend for Coastal. Like, they're now only 1 game up on USM.
Tough weekend, tough week for the Shawns. I mean, they lose against
by Clemson too
in Conway on Tuesday, and then you lose Saturday, Sunday by a combined 15-5 against ODU. Yeah, now only 1 game ahead of Southern Miss. You don't have any sort of tiebreaker there because you didn't play in the regular season, and they got to go to Lafayette this weekend.
Who's been on fire?
You can bet your ass that place is going to be jumping to the opportunity to knock them out of first place. Honestly, I was surprised to see some other top 25s. The fact that I think as a body of work this season, we have been lower on Coastal than the masses, and we also punished them the least after this week. That to me was the most surprising thing about this week. Like, we didn't drop them as hard as anybody else, but we also haven't really had them as high as anybody else. So, I mean, I think based on what they did last year, if they are to win the regular season, and let's just say Southern Miss beats them in the conference tournament finals, I still kind of think they're both going to host. I don't know. I find it really hard to believe.
25th in the RPI now.
I agree with you, but it's going to be close. I think it's closer than maybe what we think. I do. That's kind of how I feel about Coastal. The non-con strength of schedule, according to the numbers, according to the computers, is really solid.
Right. Yeah.
The strength of schedule is good. Like, it's not incredible, but it's good. So I don't know. Again, I haven't been overly impressed with this Coastal team all season, other than the fact that they've just won baseball games. And this is the first week all season that they haven't won baseball games. Again, they didn't play, in my opinion, they didn't play the best Sun Belt schedule, and they've won a lot of games, and they've found ways to win a lot of games that, quite frankly, they shouldn't have. But again, you can't play the shoulda, woulda, coulda game. They're a fundamentally sound team. They're a very well-coached baseball team. I don't really know where they stand. Like, I could see them going either way. Like, I could easily see this team being a 2 seed or like a pesky 2 seed. Honestly, I think Coastal, as much as that Conway Stadium and crowd gets crazy and rowdy, like, I almost feel like it would be an advantage for Coastal to not host, because nobody's going to necessarily be trying to knock them off as the 1. I think just in terms of their play this season, I feel like they would benefit from that, other than the fact that college baseball is a huge home field sport.
And they play well at home. They're really good at home. But
always do.
Yeah. I mean, they're 25th in the RPI right now. This weekend against 49th ranked Louisiana is not going to help them. It's on the road, but it is a quad 2 game. So if they don't win this weekend, it puts them in a really mercurial spot to be saying that they should be a host team for me. So I don't know. I don't have them as a host. I think that there's only one team. I still think it's Southern Miss that hosts, but that's just my 2 cents is if you're asking for my opinion. Number 13, West Virginia up 5. Jason, very good baseball team. They showed it this weekend. They got to finish now. One more weekend left.
I will just say it is, again, ironic that I'm the individual to be talking about West Virginia when I think half of the population of West Virginia currently thinks that I have 2 brain cells that if you were to line them up would both be pointing in the opposite direction of Morgantown. So for me, I really like this team. I think the uniqueness behind them is the depth associated with them as a team. Because again, like I worry about the bullpen. I worry about, if Cole or, if Yell don't make it out of the 4th, I worry about that. And I told their coaching staff, I was like, you guys remind me of NC State from 21. Shout out Tyler. Like, hey, they were able to do all of this with basically an elite top 4 hitters and then 5 pitchers. Now their 5 through 9 did a phenomenal job getting to 1 through 4, but that's where they did their damage. So I really like this team. I have no idea what their floor or their ceiling is. I think that's kind of the best way for me to put them. I think that their floor can still be pretty low just because if that first game doesn't go well and they're in the losers bracket after game 1, then like it's going to be a struggle for them. But that hasn't happened. So like the ceiling is obviously incredibly high because you have you're probably the best 1-2 in the Big 12 in terms of starting pitching. And then Montesa is a lot better than his numbers actually show. And you add in that really you add in that Corn's one of the best relievers in the Big 12. Like their pitching staff 1 through 5 is probably the best pitching staff in the Big 12 1 through 5. So I think there's a ton of things to like about them. I'm still a little hesitant on a few. There's some DSR has them 9th.
Yeah.
So I mean there's some, and it's ELO based. So for y'all who don't know what ELO is, it's basically like it came from chess. So yeah, you translate it to the baseball world. You're given a number, and depending upon who you win or who you lose, you basically gain or lose numbers. So the whole thought process is like, well, who did you win? Who did you lose to? And so sometimes in baseball, like that's good. Like over a really like 160 like 4 games with like the pros works really well. Sometimes if you're talking about especially like a 30 game season in the conference, like maybe sometimes it gets a little mushy. But I there's still a like to love about this team. And I feel like if I say any more negative things about them, my house and my car will be burned. So I shall stop.
Here's my thought on West Virginia. One, if they get a host, they're really tough. They're really tough in Morgantown. And if they get to Omaha, their game translates to Omaha very well. Like they don't have to hit the long ball. They can hit gaps. They play defense. They pitch. Like their game translates to Omaha. So it would be really, really a good thing to see them in Omaha for them. Number 12, Southern Miss. Will, we've talked a lot about this team. They've been taking care of business lately. We started saying, hey, all they got to do is win weekend series. Well, that's what they've been doing lately, and they really have turned it on late.
Yeah, 12-2 since their midweek loss at Ole Miss. So since they traveled to Oxford, the Ole Miss kind of beat them up. They're 12-2 since. They're playing really good baseball. They've got a final series against Georgia Southern at home, and then they get their shot to go win the Sun Belt Championship. And for what it's worth, I put good money on Southern Miss to win that thing. I really do. I think that this is the most complete team in the Sun Belt. They don't have the Cam Fluky like Coastal does. Yeah. But I think when you look at all of the pitchers, honestly, I mean, not that Coastal only has one arm. Coastal has some wealth there in the arm barn. But Southern Miss's top, 5 or 6 innings guys have all been really, really good. And they've been around the block a couple of times. So I'd put good money on those guys, 3.7 ERA this year, 2.43 batting average against. And I think the offense as a group is better than Coastal's. Like they don't really rely on one guy, but they also don't necessarily have the one standout either. Joey Urban has really cooled off the second half of the year. And I say cooled off, even though he has, he's pushing a 1.0 OPS. He's at like a 960 or something like that. But he was a guy, he was genuinely lighting the world on fire through the first month and a half of the season. So he's definitely cooled off, but they're getting really good contribution from him, and Kyle Morrison and Davis Gillespie has really stepped up. I still think the one thing, like, you still look at some of their guys that haven't quite gotten going. I mean, Seth Smith has been awesome of late. It's really good to see Matthew Russo get going. So this is a dangerous team. Like, the guys that didn't play well in the first half of the year are now playing better. And the guys that were playing unbelievable at the beginning of the year might not be playing unbelievable, but they're still playing really well. So it's like they just seem more balanced at this point, and I really, really like this team. I mean, I think you go out and you go win the Sun Belt Championship and you beat Coastal in that thing, you've got a pretty good argument for a top 8 seed.
Yeah. And while they may not have any premier arms, you could say, they're still top 10 in runs allowed. So if you're top 10 in the country in runs allowed, you're still in a really good spot because you have enough good arms that are getting you through games. So I love that. Number 12, Southern Miss. Number 11, Mississippi State. Jason, they're up 3. This is a team that could be really good on one weekend or really not great. And it's a, I get really big questions on this team, honestly.
This is a really confusing team for me. And as I was prepping for this, I was like, up 3, like, are we sure? Like, they just lost a series to Auburn at home. And that's after losing, the series to Alabama and getting swept, and losing the series to Georgia and getting swept. So, like, really, really unique team that may end up going 5-5, like, on weekend. And I was listening to Dari and Kyle Peterson. They were talking. I think it was Dari. I can't remember. It's basically like, why do we count series wins? And it was Chris Berkey, and he was basically like, well, I think it shows like the depth of your pitching, and like, hey, like, how do you do in a 3-game series? And I think, like, from a cumulative standpoint, you love this Mississippi State team. Like, you love the power, you love the depth of the hitting, you love the pitching, the fact that, McPherson is coming back. He looked pretty good on Sunday, not phenomenal. He looked pretty good. Clearly, I know things didn't go phenomenally on Sunday. I get it. But again, like, that's his first game back. He's got an incredibly high ceiling. So the pitching depth is good. The hitting depth is really good. But it just almost feels like, I don't know, they can't rub like 3 to 4 complete games in a row together, which isn't a great quality to have. And a lot of times it just feels like they don't take advantage of, like, scenarios or circumstances. And I mean, even the LSU series that they swept, like, LSU, I mean, again, that's one of those where they came out of it and they were like, shit, like, that was our opportunity. So, I mean, we just listed off 4 of their home series, and I don't think they really looked good in any of the 4. So, like, I love this Mississippi State team on paper. I don't know if I love them while I watch them. Does that make any sense?
It does, because to me, they leave some of the most base runners in play, and they don't score those guys, and it feels like, man, that, like, 1 out, guys on second and third, and then they don't score a run. You're like, how did they just do that? Like, how are they leaving these guys on where it's like an 80% to score a run and they don't score a run? And then they shock you in the instance where they'll have 2 outs and then they'll get like 9 hits in a row and score 6 runs. You're like, I can't figure out this team. I like them and I don't love them. Like, that's how I describe them. I like them, I don't love them. And they kind of showed it again this weekend.
Mark, maybe you could answer this. Is a good question. Like,
yeah,
any thoughts on why the UVA transfers have struggled? I know Teal has been dealing with some injuries. Valencius, whatever you want to call his ass, he's been really good. He's been a really good pitcher for them. But yeah, I feel like, you had Teal and why am I forgetting their other big time Virginia portal transfer? I think crazy.
the biggest problem for them has been Teal's been banged up a lot more than people want to lead to believe. Like, and in the college game, it's a lot more quiet. They don't have to announce their injuries, so they kind of try to keep that stuff under wraps, especially for guys that are going to be draft eligible. Like, they try to keep that pretty quiet. Like, they don't want that stuff getting out there. So guys are playing through a lot more injuries. 2, they didn't play on this big of a stage. Like, I know UVA is still one of the top stages in college baseball. It's not Starkville. You're not playing in front of 14,000 under that pressure all the time. It's a lot different of a ball game when you come to the SEC than it is when you're in the ACC. So while the struggles have been minimal, I still think that they've been there because of their facing elite competition every single weekend. So you don't get those huge weekends where you might go play like, one of those teams that's struggling in the ACC play. So say you playing like a Duke this year and you go out there and you go 9 for 13 over a weekend. You're not getting that because you're not playing those teams in the SEC, and especially Mississippi State's schedule has not been easy. I think that's it. It's just the translation between the ACC and SEC is just quite a bit different, and especially in Starkville, where they've had 24 of the largest 25 college baseball crowds ever.
Yeah. Great scene in Starkville at the end of one of the games. They have their left field tailgating, or maybe that's Texas. I don't know what they call it in Mississippi State, but they were giving Terrell. Yeah, left field lounge. Thank you. I thought it was left field. I was like, no, okay, disregard.
There's something in Texas called left field also.
Yeah. Thank you. As soon as I said left field, I was like, oh shit, wrong school. But they gave Bub Terrell like 5 plates of barbecue for him to take back for the team. So that was.
Did you see during the pitching change? During the pitching change, the outfielders
they handed him like a kebab or something. Yeah. But at the end of the game, they took a picture. He legit, it looked like they gave him like the leftovers. Like it was not an inconsequential amount of food.
No, I love it. Maybe next year, Starkville. Maybe next year we'll shoot an episode there. Can't wait.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. 10, God, I've always wanted to go. Just no cowbells. No cowbells.
We'll just go in left field lounge. We'll go hang out with our friends. Like we'll make this thing. We'll make it happen. We'll do a show out in front. I love it. We'll do a show out in front.
Great fan base
next year. Number 10, Florida State, up 3. Will, they looked good. I mean, they took 2 of 3 from a Clemson team and knocked them out. But they still haven't shown me the eliteness to be a national seed this year.
I completely agree. And obviously, this is a much different team with/without Miles Bailey, and that's all we're going to talk about, right? I think at the end of the season, we're going to look at Florida State as a what if because of how good that frontline pitching has been. With Wes Mendez has just been lights out all season long. Like Trey Beard has shown really good flashes. John Abraham has been really good for them. So you have all these really, really good arms and top arms, and you just are missing that one key piece, and it's Miles Bailey. Like sure enough. And last year, they had some other guys that could really bang. Like they still had, is it Max Williams? That kid was really good last year for them, and with a lot of power. It seems like the guys that you kind of were relying on to step in for him haven't quite hit the power stuff that you would hope. Not that they're hitting bad, but when you look at Cal Fisher and Braden Dowd, they haven't quite hit the power that I think you would have hoped.
Yeah,
you didn't foresee not having Miles Bailey in the middle of the lineup, but I think nonetheless, you still have that piece of it. Fun weekend for them against Miami next weekend. I think this is a very solid team that has continued to do things well given their circumstance. But I would agree. I don't think this is a national seed. I don't even know if they get out of a regional, honestly. I mean, it's tough, right?
Get off schedule.
Because heaven forbid anything happens with Mendez and you knock them out early, their whole regional plan is out. And this is a team that I think matches up better in a super than they do in a regional, just based on their bullpen depth. So I would feel more comfortable with them in a super, depending on who they draw in a regional. I don't know if they're getting out of a regional.
Yeah. Now, Stutzer and Delemelier have been real good for them, and they've come up huge lately. But they need more from guys like Dowd and Carnes and Fisher. They need these guys to step up later in the season and kind of be that power, and they haven't had it yet. They could. I mean, there's still an opportunity out there. There's still a chance here for them to be really, really good. I don't see them as a national seed. They're going to host. There's going to be a host in Tallahassee. I just don't see it being a top 8 seed to me. Number 9, Oregon State, up 2. Listen, it's a different team without Dax Whitney. It's just not as feared as it would have been nationally with Dax Whitney going on Friday nights. Now, Ethan Kleinschmidt has been every part of a Friday night ace. He took a perfect game into the 5th inning this weekend. Last weekend, he had a no-hitter through 4. He's really, really good. And there's no doubts. Nobody's going to argue that he's not, wouldn't be the Friday night ace for 98% of teams in the country. But you have to move everybody up. And now you've got the freshman Trey Morris going on Sundays, who's been really good in the games that they've played, but he's also playing RPI teams of 200 plus. He's not facing elite talent batters where that fastball maybe doesn't play in a regional. Do I still like Oregon State? Yes, they're scrappy. And 5 straight 40-win seasons for Canham is unbelievable to start off his coaching career here. That's a tip of the hat. Nobody does that very often. It just doesn't happen. And a big, big kudos to him. If I'm a team right now, I'm not afraid of Oregon State. Now, going to Goss, not fun. Teams don't have a good time up there. You can't hit the ball out of the ballpark, and that crowd is wild, and it gets a little crazy there. And even when they lose a game, we saw last year, they could lose a game and go through their whole regional and be fine. that's the kind of depth that they have in the pitching. But now without Dax Whitney, they don't have that elite Friday night guy that pushes everybody else up. Now, Eric Segura has also been elite on Saturdays for them now, moving up from the Sunday role. But I still think there's still some big question marks there. And I still like Oregon State, but I do have them here, and I don't think they can play their way into a national seed. I think no matter what, they're going to be a regional, but not a national seed. Number 8, Oregon.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Question for you is, what is their floor now? Like
not hosting a 2. If they lose this weekend, I mean, they have Air Force this weekend, so I don't foresee them losing at home.
They're 159, so that would be what, a Q3 or Q4 loss? I can't remember. Maybe a Q4, just right on the edge.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of Q4, but I think that I don't see them dropping out. I mean, the thing is their RPI is still top 16. Like most places have them in the top 10 team. I think as long as they take care of business this weekend, they're still a host. Like that's kind of where you look at them. I said that they couldn't lose another game. Now, after sweeping this weekend, looking really good against Long Beach State, and the pitching's been really good, I think you could say that they could drop 1, but they can't afford to drop 2. But there's no chance for them being a national seed, in my opinion, now. Like there's just no road for them to get there. It just doesn't build up RPI wise and losses wise. They piled up too many too fast. So that's where I say.
That makes sense. I agree with that.
Number 8, Oregon, up to, listen, they gave UCLA everything they could. They won game 2. They were ahead in game 3 all the way through the 8th inning. They had them on the ropes, and they dropped that one late. Now, Oregon's tough. Their whole season's in front of them. What can they do against USC at home? If they take care of business against USC at home, they win that series, they're a host. That's all it is, Duck fans. Win this weekend, you're a host. Now, you might get Jack Jimenez back this weekend, which would be a big boost, but Jack Brooks has been phenomenal for you guys filling in at center field, and he deserves every bit of the kudos that he gets. He's been tremendous out there for them. Jaxa has been really good for them in left field, who's the backup catcher and the true freshman learning how to play left field and first base and doing all the things. I like this team. I like the Ducks. I like them this weekend. I like them to host in 2 weeks for a regional. Number 7, Texas A&M. Jason, good team. They hit really well on one game, and then the other 2 games, it was kind of like, where's the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching that Saturday game, and I think they hit like 4 or 5 home runs off of Townsend. I mean, I watched the Arkansas Ole Miss game, and I thought Townsend may have been the best starting pitcher of the trio. So when Elliott and them took game 1, I was like, look out for Ole Miss. Like, they could have a potential sweep here. Now, they ended up taking it, but I think there are 2 things you look at for Texas A&M. They've changed around their pitching rotation, which I think we're going to have to wait to see. Like, is that a like value add or value not? I know that Cedeo's been struggling a little bit, but again, like he kind of had a formula that was working. And the question is like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And was it broken? And it just wasn't broken like enough to where like your hitting was offsetting the brokenness of it. But you also have some injury concerns that are really starting to wear their head a little bit. So I still really like this A&M team, but if Akopian's not going crazy, if Sorrell's not going, I think they're starting to thin out a little bit in that 8-9 spot, especially with the injuries. So they can't win a 12-8 game anymore. I mean, they still can, like they did on Saturday, but I think they're going to run into a Rab or an Elliott who will put up some zeros, and then it's going to put a ton of pressure on their pitching staff. So I still think this team is pretty safely hosting. I think they're 10th in the RPI right now. I know they slipped quite a bit in some of the rankings, but for me, I still think they have so much quality that I'm not worried about them. But I do think there are some red flags. I think that would be the best way for me to put it is, while I think the sum total is still really good, I think there's now some things that you look at and you go, okay, like you're still on my wagon list, but we need to fix a wheel or 2 and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, it feels like maybe a little bit of depth. Like that seems to me is like the question is like depth right now for that team. Like they're still really good 1 through 6, but depth is me. So number 6, Texas down 1. Again, they lost the weekend, but still a very, very good team. Still probably the best pitching team full top to bottom. If you're talking about a whole rotation, they're really, really good. I mean, this is still a very good Texas team, and they still have Aiden Robbins on their team. So, and Carson Tenney,
And Carson Tenney, A-Rod, and I mean, they're good. Again, they just need to work at the bottom of their. Peck has been phenomenal. We talked about the SEC Freshman of the Year. He's been really, really good.
Yeah.
It was the first team to find out that Valantis makes him bleed his own blood. So Tennessee finally was able to get to Valantis, which was wild to see. But they're fine. I'm not. Yeah. No. Tennessee looked really damn good. It just happens. Again, like that's why it's so hard to play. My team's better than that team because we beat them 2-3 or swept them or whatever. Because sometimes you just have a team that's playing really, really hot. And sometimes you have a pitcher that just stands on his head and makes it difficult to win.
Texas
like that Chapman grand slam. That Chapman grand slam was like 360 to right center field. And I know Nash from Texas, he likes to stir the pot on the Twitters, and he put something up there. He's like, this wouldn't even gotten to the warning track at Doak. It's a bounce house in Tennessee, but it's a bounce house for both teams. So swing the bat.
Got to hit if you want to be there. And you know, hey, it's a weekend. It's not the end of the season for this Texas team. They're still good. People are now hearkening, thinking that this team's going to be like last year's team that lost in a regional.
Negative.
I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see that.
Atlantis is going to go game 1, and they will be cake. Do not worry. If they're 1 seed, he may go game 2, but you know,
who knows?
We'll see. Because they lost to UTSA in the 1-0 game, wasn't that? Yeah. Okay. I was trying to remember if they were one of the ones to lose to a 4. I knew that UTSA came out of that regional. I just couldn't remember if it was the 1-0 or the 0-1.
They were top 25. I think that they were on the fringe of 25, so they were the 2 or 3 seed because they didn't tell us what those seeds were last year.
Yeah.
Number 5, Auburn up 1. Auburn real good at baseball. Real good.
Nothing to say. They have, I think, honestly, the best pitching staff in the country.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine
1 through 4
saying
for
now.
sure.
I've been saying it for like, you were like, hey, have we thought about this? Like, is it contemplate? No, I just don't even care. Like they are. Like, come at me, bro. Like I just their 1 through 4 is so good. And again, like if they're able to get just a little bit from the hitting, then I feel like I say the same goddamn thing about them every week. Apologies. Because I feel like they're so good, there's not really a lot to say. Terrell looked good. Like he looked like he did as a true freshman. Like everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Like is this guy?
Brembert was back. He hit a home run. Like
exactly.
This is a dangerous team.
Yeah,
this is an Omaha caliber team.
I mean, legitimately, like they've who's their third baseman? My gosh, why have I forgot? Guevara or
Eric Guevara?
Is it Guevara? I can't. He was like the Arkansas could not get him out like at all.
Yeah,
like it was. Really I think he was 6 for 6 like the first few games of that series. They've got a lot of really good depth, and if they're one of those teams that they feel like they're built for Omaha. 4 really good pitchers and a lineup full of dudes who put the ball in play and hit line drives. So I really like Auburn. Wagon will.
I think you could stamp any of these next 5 teams. I mean, there was an argument for a while where you could have said that Texas or Oregon State or UNC had that top pitching staff. It's not an argument anymore. It's Auburn. Like I don't even argue the fact anymore. It's Auburn. Number 4, Georgia Tech. You got number 4 and number 3, Will, because we talked about this already. Georgia Tech at 4, Georgia at 3. People want to argue, you know what? Go kick rocks. There's some outside. Go touch grass. Like these both are very, very good teams. Like I like both these teams.
All right.
Yeah, we did the full breakdown of these prior to jumping into the rankings, so I'll spare everybody a rant. But I mean, genuinely, like I really believe these 2 teams are a coin flip. The one midweek that people keep pointing to, like it is what it is. I think these teams are unbelievable. Georgia obviously already clinched the SEC regular season, which is crazy with 4 games left. Like could be will be a 20+ win SEC team. Really hard not to have them in the top 3 when you consider that piece of it. Both very, very good teams, both Omaha caliber teams. Hopefully we see them play each other in Omaha. That'd be real fun. real
Be
fun
real
for
fun.
everybody. So I just imagine the crowd that would be there would just be absolutely insane for that game in Omaha. So fingers crossed we see that matchup, because that'll be a lot of fun just as a college baseball watcher. That'll be a blast. But both these teams, unbelievable, both wagons.
Yeah, if that happens, that's one of those games where I don't watch it in the press box and I go down and I find a seat, which there probably won't be any. So I'll probably have to sit in the outfield with a bunch of you wacky fans, which will be a blast for me. But yeah, I'll come down out of the press box for that one, honestly, because it's just so much fun to be a part of that atmosphere. That's just my kind of jam on that one. Number 2, UNC, really good. And they have NC State. They have in-state rivalry this weekend. They have pitching. We know what Jason DeCaro is. We know what they have out of their bullpen. Glauber should win freshman of the year. He's really, really, really elite. And they got Walker McDuffie, and then they go to this rest of this pitching staff, Lynch and Boaz. Like, they're so good pitching wise, and now they've come alive offensively. Nicholson has been on fire. Like, they have really a great baseball team. They're a good baseball team. Scott Forbes has done a tremendous job this year with this baseball team, winning 40 games again. So they're 49-1, one of those teams that doesn't have double-digit losses yet. So NC State this weekend, they could all rights in NC State's season for an in-state rival. They could take care of it at NC State this weekend and sweep them, or take 2 or 3. They might do it. This is how good this UNC team is. So I'm excited for that one. And then number 1, UCLA. And I think Jason's just holding up his hashtag really good.
Hashtag good. Hashtag good.
I will
Real
see
good,
them
real
live
good
this
ball.
weekend. Get my first eyes on them live, so I'm very excited for that. But it's going to be fun. So
I love playing devil's advocate. I'm a contrarian. Go screw yourself. That's just who I am. You look at them though, the past 3 weeks. So they had Sac State, which they probably should have lost 2 or 3.
Yep.
And then they had Michigan State,
where they lost 2 or 3. They were down for 16 of 27 innings.
Should have lost 2 or 3. They had a midweek where they lost. Then they had this weekend where they probably should have lost 2 or 3. So I mean, there was this like debate, kind of halfway, like, is this the best team ever? Like, holy shit! Like, I don't know, maybe. Like, I don't see it. Like, Rock Chalowski's a 1-1, but like Wyland Moss is really freaking good. But I think he would have been pitcher number 3 for LSU last year. Yeah. So like,
they don't have a Friday night ace that's
you
like
don't have
Logan
level. If you don't have Logan Redeman back, if you're still going Wyland Moss, like, I think that kind of lowers their ceiling a little bit. Now, I mean, Lavu just looks like an absolute freak. I know why. Hey, Will, you were so high on him at the beginning of last year, not this year, but last year. They've Brennan hit ball real far. Chalowski real good. I mean, they've got a lot of phenomenal pieces. We haven't even mentioned their giant out in center field, Mr. Gasparino. So like, they've got a
Dean
ton of
West
talent.
playing better, Roman Martin playing better. Like, my God, the lineup.
It all comes down to that perfect. It was them in Arkansas 3 years ago. It was like, who's got the best perfect game clash? Because like Arkansas brought in like 10 top 100 guys. UCLA brought in I think 9, but UCLA brought in Chalowski, and Chalowski was like 14th overall. And so it was like, oh my God, how did this guy get to campus? By the way, how did he get to campus? I don't know. But ultimately, real good at ball. I don't have much more to say. I just I think Noah put it quite well. He said maybe they needed to taste their own blood. I feel like they're taking some body shots right now. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they're Mike Tyson up there laying some bitches on the ground. But like, they're definitely taking some body shots to where the ribs aren't feeling phenomenal at the moment. So I still love this team, but I do think the distance between 1 and 5 really isn't that far.
It's shrunk up quite a bit in the last 3 weeks. Like, Georgia's gotten better, Georgia Tech's gotten better, UNC's gotten better, Auburn's gotten better, and UCLA's come down just a little bit. Like, UCLA's still top, but it's gotten a lot closer in those top 5 teams for me. So well put there, Jason. Any final thoughts, Will?
Yeah, nothing. We're at final stretch, man. I cannot believe we're in the last week of the regular season, but
the last episode of the regular season.
Let it be known there is conference tournaments already happening, and actually Army lost. So
Army
as the 1
out.
seed, they are officially out of tournament play.
That bullshit. Mr. Blue Green wants to know when the portal opens. It's always open,
I'm gonna say
baby.
it's already
Uh,
open.
so
Already open.
Here's the insane thing about the portal. So it closed last year, like July 1. The next year's portal opened August 1. So there was literally a month off. So like there's like 1,500 guys in the portal, some odd number, like 8,000 of them were basically from that August to December because a lot of guys get cut in December. Now it's growing exponentially right now, mainly because D2, D3 is always open, but it just doesn't like do a lot for morale when your best player goes in halfway through the season. So a lot of these guys wait until the tail end of the season to start going. So now they're going in. And now you're getting guys. This was something I was really contemplating with basketball. You saw all of these dudes who are like, I will be entering the portal. It's like, my guy, you can't enter for 3 weeks. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to get these teams in trouble? Like, they can't talk to you.
They can't
Like,
talk to
are
you.
you just like trying to like, like put your headshot out there? Like, don't forget me. But yeah, like I've seen some things of like, this guy's just entered the portal. Like, no, he hasn't. He can't enter. So technically it's supposed to open June 1st, which I'm sorry, I'm rambling on this, but the question, softball doesn't open until June 8th. Softball season ends before baseball. And so
Yeah,
part
a
of
week
me
before.
thinks that, part of me thinks that the NCAA is just slow as shit and that it's going to change because basketball was 2 weeks the day after the end of the last game. Softball is 2 weeks the day after the last game. Baseball is still a month, randomly starting June 1st.
Should end
So
July 1st. It should open July 1st. It should open after the World Series.
it's batshit bananas crazy. I mean, all they need to do, it's so simple. I think it's like June 20 something when the last game is in the World Series. 14 games, allow a portal. Then the next week is the draft, and so you literally know exactly like ultimately who's in the portal before the draft. And that was kind of one of the weird things. Is like the draft happens, the portal's still freaking open. So like you could have guys who, in theory, could then leverage teams that now need
Great
spots.
Caraway.
Yeah, it's basically like, hey, this team now has a lot of money freed up. I'm going to go in the portal because there's more money out there. It's just such a jacked up situation that they won't fix because it's the NCAA. I think that's kind of my summary of today.
Way to sum things up here. Thanks for joining us on the last regular season top 25. We will still have one next weekend after this last weekend of games here, but heading into the conference tournaments for most of these major conferences. For Jason and Will and myself, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys Wednesday for the live preview show for the weekend.